Chapter 1432. The Celestial Court had disappeared for 1,000,000 years, but its power was still there. The Celestial Court had been too prosperous in the past. It had created the Xianhuang heavenly domain, and no other force could reach the level of glory of the Celestial Court 1,000,000 years ago. In the vast, undying heavenly domain, a branch of the Celestial Court had dominated one of the 10 great continents, the 9 Cauldrons continent. Although the Bai family was an insignificant force in the undying heavenly domain, they knew how glorious the Celestial Court used to be. Even the high and mighty immortal orthodoxy paled in comparison to the prosperous Celestial Court. I will definitely go to the ruins of the Celestial Court. Su Yan's emotions were stirred, and he found it hard to calm down. As a member of the Xianhuang universe, he had mixed feelings. This matter had a great impact on him. Look, Feng Rong is here. The area was in chaos as a large number of cultivators went to greet him. They had secretly called Feng Rong the eldest senior brother of the outer sect, the strongest in the outer sect. He was Zhu Yanghua's follower, and his status and identity were not something Xia Kunlun could compare to. Feng Rong's ranking on the sky bamboo steel had even risen to the 934th place. Su Yan's current ranking was 4,800, and he was known as one of the top 10 in the outer sect. However, it was difficult for him to be compared to Feng Rong. Feng Rong was wearing a long silver robe, and his eyes were like lightning. That's the aura of the primordial spirit. Is Feng Rong's primordial spirit about to become an immortal? All the cultivators gathered here were shocked. Everyone was able to notice that the formidable soul qi leaking out from Feng Rong's frontal bone was about to penetrate his body and transform into a peerless void immortal expert. However, the void immortal realm was extremely difficult. Even if the family still had stock of the 7-colored primordial immortal liquid, they could not give Feng Rong. You are Xia Kunlun. At this moment, Feng Rong's eyes looked through the crowd and fixed on Su Yan. That's me, Su Yan replied calmly. You are the one who defeated my good-for-nothing brother. Feng Rong clasped his hands behind his back. His body and primordial spirit glowed at the same time. He was like a silver god standing between heaven and earth. Everyone knew that Xia Kunlun had defeated Feng De and obtained the Grade 5 Life Essence Evolution Fluid. It was because of this fortuitous encounter that Xia Kunlun was able to become one of the outer court's top 10 powerhouses. However, ever since Feng De was defeated, he had disappeared for several months. He had even evaporated into thin air with Zhu Gaoge. Feng Rong's face was a little gloomy. He knew that the clan was looking for Zhu Gaoge, but why did Feng De disappear? And in the distant Feng family, Feng De's origin spirit lamp had already been extinguished. The entire Feng family was uneasy. They wanted to send a message, but the distance between the Feng family and the heavenly bamboo continent was too far. With the Feng family's power, even if they were qualified to send a message to the central region, it would take a very long time. Even to the experts of the sky bamboo lineage, Feng De was nothing. How could they activate a transcontinent teleportation array just because of the death of Small Fry? That's right, Su Yan replied. Do you want to spar with me? Feng Rong spoke in a low voice. He was in a bad mood. He felt that something must have happened to Feng De. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble and would not dare to show his face. The onlookers were a little surprised. Feng Rong wanted to fight with Xia Kunlun? Forget it. Suddenly, Feng Rong shook his head and said, It's a little bullying. When you're strong enough in the future, you can fight with me. There were sighs of admiration all around. Feng Rong's image in their hearts had greatly improved. On the contrary, they looked at Su Yan without saying anything. It was obvious that he was much weaker and not on the same level. I admire Feng Rong's breadth of mind. Yes, he's really broad-minded. We should learn from Brother Feng Rong. Feng Rong's face was full of smiles. So what if he defeated Xia Kunlun? Even if he beat him up to vent his anger, it would weaken his reputation. Now that he was known as the #1 expert of the outer sect, his breadth of mind was as broad as the sea. This was the supreme glory. Everyone, I'm going to the 9 Cauldrons continent to participate in the auction. Do any of you want to come with me? Feng Rong's words immediately attracted enthusiastic responses. A few of Ayunchi's close friends also pulled her along. At first, she was a little reluctant. However, she couldn't dissuade the women. Looking at Su Yin, who was leaving alone, she sighed slightly and went with them. The heavyweight auction held by the Nine Cauldrons continent was no small matter. It involved more than a dozen continents. Feng Rong wanted to meet some legendary geniuses. On the way back, Su Yin met Zhu Yuanli and a group of outer sect elders. He went over to greet them. After a few words of greeting, Zhu Yuanli brought Su Yin to the side and said, "Xia Kunlun, let me tell you something. Recently, the family is preparing to select some outer sect disciples and send them to the top secret palace to cultivate. Everyone will have a month. It's here." Su Yin suppressed the joy in his heart and said, "Can I get a spot?" "There's a high chance," Zhu Yuanli said with a smile. "The 10,000 races battlefield. I estimate that it will open in about a year. The family will do its best to nurture you. You must also prepare early. When you step into the true immortal realm in the 10,000 races battlefield, you will be considered an expert of the Qingyun world." Su Yin was excited. He didn't care about the top secret palace at all. If he could get close to the cultivation area of the top secret palace, then Su Yin would be infinitely close to it. The Golden Immortal Cave. The Golden Immortal Cave was the strongest place Su Yin wanted. Su Yin was very clear about his own shortcomings. His physical body was not strong enough. Even his indestructible body cultivation had not made any progress. How could he reach the minor completion realm? Su Yin had a headache. If he couldn't push the indestructible body to the minor completion realm, it would be difficult for him to compete with the strongest of the immortal orthodoxies in the future. After all, Su Yin had to face the bamboo sunflower. There would likely be a frightening battle at the place where the heavenly bamboo primogenitor had fallen. If Su Yin wanted to send Zhu Yuan, he had to be able to take charge of the situation alone. Although he was a pseudo-immortal, he knew that he was not strong enough. The place where the progenitor died is the most important thing. Although Zhu Yao has Bamboo Moon's Dharma seed, it's nothing. If I can send Bamboo Moon to the place where the progenitor died, with the help of the giant bamboo, it would be a great opportunity for Bamboo Moon. I wonder if I can get something from the Celestial Court ruins in the Nine Cauldron continent. Su Yin returned to the secret palace. The giant bamboo was still in a deep slumber, but he estimated that it wouldn't be long before it woke up. The Nine Cauldron continent and the Sky Bamboo continent bordered each other. With his speed, it would take him a few days to reach the auction. There was still a month before the Nine Cauldron auction started. He was not in a hurry to leave. 3 days later, Su Yin set off for the Nine Cauldron continent. He crossed the Sky Bamboo continent's territory and approached the Nine Cauldron continent. He was a little shocked. The Nine Cauldron continent's environment was different from the Sky Bamboo continent's. The entire continent was as deep as an abyss, filled with a heavy sense of power that made people fearful. Su Yin opened his heavenly eye and looked at the vast territory. There were heavenly treasures, outstanding people, and magnificent rivers and mountains. What a Nine Cauldron continent! Su Yin praised. He stood there and looked up at the starry sky. He couldn't help but roar at the sky, as if he was venting something. This place can be considered a continent in our universe. Bamboo Moon looked into the distance. Her clothes fluttered in the wind, and her skin was as white as snow. She was graceful and elegant. There was no joy in her, only a heavy heart. They were all members of the Xianwang universe. This place used to belong to their tribe. Now, the Nine Cauldron continent was divided by various major immortal sections. The only thing left was the ruins of the Celestial Court that ruled the Nine Cauldron continent. It will definitely be the same in the future, Su Yin said in a domineering manner. His long black hair draped over his shoulders. He stood on the peak of the mountain as if he was looking down on the entire Nine Cauldron continent. His ambition was ignited at this moment. There were too many sorrows along the way, be it the Dark Calamity or the Xian people. In short, the future was strong enough. He could deal with all the difficulties. At night, a bonfire was lit on the peak of the mountain to roast some game. Bamboo Moon nestled in Su Yan's arms and looked at the stars in the sky. She could feel the aura of the man beside her. It was about to rise from the ground and pierce through the clouds. He wanted to tell the world that the Xianwang universe still existed and that there were still inheritors. In the future, they could still ignite the tribe's power and return to their former glory. Bamboo Moon's eyes were bright. She covered half of her beautiful eyes with her slender hands and smiled mischievously. She believed that she could do it in the future too. The next day, the sun rose high and rays of light shone down. The entire nine-cauldron continent was filled with vitality, giving life to all living things. Su Yin breathed out rays of light and absorbed the nutrients of the nine-cauldron continent. He was hugging the nine-cauldron continent. He was feeling the charm of the continent, hoping to discover some places that he could be familiar with. In merely the time for an incense stick to burn, Su Yin opened his eyes and set off with Zhuyu. Along the way, they stopped and traveled, enjoying the scenery and tasting the delicacies of the ancient cities that they passed by. Su Yin forgot his troubles and emptied himself. They were like a pair of immortal couples, free and unfettered. After 20 days, Su Yin passed by more than 10 big cities. He asked the passers-by how big the nine-cauldron continent was. However, the passers-by were confused. They only felt that the nine-cauldron continent was a majestic world and did not know how big it was. After all, this place was too prosperous and prosperous. 99% of the cultivators had never left the nine-cauldron continent before. This morning, Su Yin breathed out the morning glow. He was like an ancient Qi refinement warrior hugging the nine-cauldron continent, feeling its lifeline and the aura of the ancient celestial court. Bamboo Moon was beautiful, and her clothes fluttered. She accompanied Su Yin every day and watched the sunrise with the morning glow. The golden glow shone on the peak of the mountain. Bamboo Moon was like a true fairy bathed in the divine glow and was incomparably beautiful. Suddenly, Su Yan's eyes widened. As his pupils opened, chaos exploded and lightning shot in all directions, tearing the firmament apart in a dazzling manner. What was that? That was the connate stone eye that Su Yin had already refined and fused with his pupils. As a result, Su Yan's heavenly eye was extremely powerful and could see through the vast world and explore the mysteries of the universe. In fact, this was only the beginning of the fusion, and they had yet to fuse perfectly. Su Yin wanted a supreme mystic skill that was related to ocular techniques. That was the only way he could fully explore the supreme effects of the connate eye. Right now, Su Yin was equivalent to an innate heavenly eye. If he had the opportunity in the future, he might really be able to cultivate a peerless ocular technique. At this moment, Su Yin could vaguely see the once glorious celestial court bearing down on him and shaking his heart. The sudden destruction of the celestial court still left behind a terrifying influence that was captured by Su Yin and even confirmed the destination. The ruins of the celestial court. Su Yin hurried along with Bamboo Moon. He had found the location of the ruins of the celestial court without asking anyone. I'm really looking forward to it. Bamboo Moon was pleasantly surprised. Perhaps they would encounter a special opportunity. The ruins of the celestial court had existed for millions of years. Very few people would pay attention to these ruins now. In the past, many experts from various races had dug 3 feet deep into the ruins of the celestial court, but to no avail. They turned the place upside down and found nothing of value. As time passed, the ruins of the celestial court were gradually forgotten by the people of the world. Now, Su Yin had arrived. His steps were steady as he drove towards the ruins. Chapter 1433. Celestial Court Ruins, Here I Come. Su Yin approached. His destination surprised him. He thought that the ruins would be small, but what he saw was beyond his expectations. The ruins covered an area of 1,000,000 miles. Although it looked dilapidated, there were broken walls everywhere. But the vast ruins were filled with haze of chaos. Vaguely, there was also a majestic wave being emitted. It was like the ruins of primal chaos. Even though 1,000,000 years had passed and it was ruined beyond recognition, there was still a majestic aura spreading out. It was majestic and vast, magnificent beyond compare. One could see some of the past glory and prosperity of this place. A place of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Su Yan's eyes emitted connate light. After fusing with his connate stone eye, it was inexplicably terrifying. It was as if the ancient eyes of heaven had been opened. With a slight peek, he could see the layout of the world. Rivers flowed into the sea, seizing the creation of heaven and earth to nourish a creation pure land. Once the strongest dragon vein of the 9-tripod continent was hidden here. Su Yan could see it because he had fused with his connate stone eye. He could see the direction of heaven and earth more deeply than before. The 9-tripod continent was vast and boundless. Looking at the layout of the celestial court ruins, Su Yan could see that the vast rivers and mountains were flowing towards the celestial court ruins. Once, the energy of the entire 9-tripod continent was gathered here to nourish the Holy Land. But now, the dragon vein was broken and no longer existed. It must have been forcefully cut off by someone powerful. I really want to reshape the dragon vein and restore its glory. Su Yan's eyes were like lightning. He stood in the distance and looked at the ruins of the celestial court. His heart was in turmoil. He could see that the layout was still there. Although it was broken, there was still hope to reshape it. Is there hope? Bamboo Moon had mixed feelings. The glory of her ancestors had been trampled. As a part of the Xianwang universe, they wanted to do something. At the very least, they would not be disturbed by the cultivators of the outside world. They also wanted to send some incense. Su Yan and Bamboo Moon weren't the only people in the ruins. There were also quite a few onlookers in front of the ruins who were commenting and admiring the scene. The vast ruins, the place of grief for the celestial court, still exuded a strong aura of death. Countless celestial soldiers and generals had fallen here in the past. But now, it had been reduced to a special scenic spot, causing Su Yan to feel deep sorrow. Yes, ever since my eyes fused with the primordial stone eye, I can see further and clearer. Su Yan replied confidently. Junior sister, what's wrong? Are you feeling uneasy? At this time, a group of people ascended the ruins and were about to approach Su Yan's group. Su Yan cultivated his immortal Tao, primordial spirit. His perception was shocking. The people who came were exceptionally powerful. There were 2 peak immortal Tao experts. Their soul fluctuations were also extremely powerful, far surpassing Su Yan's. It's nothing. A woman gently shook her head. She wore a blue dress and looked gentle and elegant. Her limpid eyes fell on the ruins of the celestial court, her heart and spirit filled with sorrow. There were 5 people in the group, the other 4 wearing long alchemy robes. 2 of them were young, and the other 2 were old. Friends in front, please wait. One of them was a man with a blazing aura. His eyes were as resplendent as divine lamps. He saw Su Yan walking toward the ruins of the celestial court and said, "Is this the ruins of the destroyed celestial court?" It was their first time here. Along the way, they inquired about the location of the ruins of the celestial court. They weren't sure if they had arrived at their destination. Su Yan's heart was heavy, and he was in no mood to pay attention to him. The man frowned slightly. 2 balls of divine fire burned in his eyes, hazy and resplendent, faintly reflecting Su Yan. Roar! Suddenly, just as his aura approached Su Yan, the scene in his pupils, which were burning with divine fire, changed. It was as if he saw a giant battle beast that had been sleeping on the path of immortality come back to life. In an instant, a low voice exploded, shaking the heavens and the earth. Poof! The man with the blazing aura seemed to have been struck by lightning. His throat rolled, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. He looked shocked and pointed at Su Yan. You, he said with a trembling voice. Damlang. The silent elder's expression suddenly changed. He raised his hand to suppress Damlang's trembling essence soul. At the same time, he quickly took out an elixir and injected it into Damlang's forehead to stabilize his essence soul that was about to collapse. Deng Suifeng's face was gloomy. He glared at Su Yin and said, "You've gone too far, haven't you? You hurt him directly with your essence soul and almost threatened his life." Hearing that, Su Yin stopped and stared at Dang Suifeng coldly. "Who's the one who's spying on me so brazenly? If the two of you weren't here, he'd already be a corpse." Dan Lang's face immediately turned pale. He cursed his bad luck. He didn't expect to provoke a true immortal expert. Dang Suifeng's expression was uncertain. He knew that Dan Lang had gone too far, but they didn't expect this young man to be an immortal Dao expert. Bamboo Moon. Suddenly, the woman in the blue dress had an extremely abnormal expression. She saw the stunning beauty beside Su Yin. At this time, Dang Suifeng and the others also noticed Bamboo Moon. They were very surprised. Such an outstanding beauty. Her appearance and looks were really extraordinary. However, when Dang Suifeng looked again, he was stunned. This woman was of mortal flesh, Liang Yan. Although Su Yan's expression didn't change, his heart was greatly shaken. He was a little worried that Bamboo Moon would lose her composure. However, when he saw the calm Bamboo Moon, Su Yin couldn't help but laugh. This was the former sect leader of Hokuto. She was very calm. Bamboo Moon's heart was naturally not calm. They actually met an old friend in the vast, immortal heavenly domain. Wasn't the world too small? Su Yin was pleasantly surprised. The old leader and the others had left together, taking away many experts from the black-yellow universe. His good friends, Liang Yan and Zi Xioning, had also left together. Su Yin really didn't expect to meet Liang Yan here. He had to admit that the world was too small, really too small. "Junior sister, you know him?" Dan Lang's condition improved a little. He looked at Bamboo Moon in amazement. Liang Yan's breathing quickened, but she was trying to control her emotions. "Taoist master, you must have mistaken me for someone else." Bamboo Moon suppressed the shock in her heart and said calmly, "My name is Su Xiaoya. I'm not familiar with the people of the immortal Tao. I only know my husband." After that, Bamboo Moon looked at Su Yin affectionately. "Su Xiaoya?" Liang Yan was a little confused. Did she really mistake her for someone else? Bamboo Moon was immortal flesh. She could naturally tell. Yan has broken through to the immortal realm. She's not with Bao Kai and the others? Su Yin thought to himself. No wonder he didn't sense Liang Yan's aura before. She had entered the immortal realm, and her life essence had changed a lot. Therefore, Su Yin couldn't sense her aura. "I really mistook you for someone else. I thought you were an old friend from my hometown." Liang Yan sighed. Even if she was really Bamboo Moon, how could she marry someone else in such a short period of time? She thought of Su Yin, and her heart was filled with sorrow. How good would it be if he was still alive? In the past, she looked up to Su Yin and watched him grow up. The Su Yin who had left an indelible impression on her heart had become an expert in the Xianwang universe. He alone could deter a great sect. Even if there were many experts in the immortal heavenly domain, she believed that with Su Yan's talent, he could also become an indomitable expert in the immortal heavenly domain. "Yan," Dang Suifeng smiled faintly. "Your hometown is the void. She's just immortal flesh. How can she be an old friend from your hometown? I think you've really mistaken her for someone else." "That's right, junior sister. You don't have anyone to rely on in the immortal heavenly domain. Danzong is your home. I think you miss your old friends too much. If there's anything sad, you can tell me more." Dang Suifeng admired Liang Yan a lot. One had to know that when she joined the Danzong a few years ago, she was immediately valued by the upper echelons of the Danzong Empire. She was a woman who could concoct level 8 Dan pills. With some nurturing, she was also a master in the Jindan realm. "So the two of you are experts from Danzong." Su Yin stepped forward and bowed. "Sorry for the offense just now. It's just a small matter." The other expert who had been silent said, "It was Dang Suifeng's fault just now as well. We still have important matters to attend to. Let's not talk anymore." Dang Suifeng nodded. They had important matters to attend to in the Nine Cauldrons continent. Zhu Lihue of the Sky Bamboo sect had already asked the two of them to help him concoct a cauldron of Dayuan golden pills. This kind of pill required a long time to concoct, so they had to prepare in advance. Before leaving, The taciturn pinnacle true immortal looked deeply at Su Yin. He could vaguely sense that this person was not a true immortal. However, since his primordial spirit was so terrifying, it was very likely that he was a false immortal. Danzong also had such people, but there was no need to provoke them. Su Yin watched them leave. Bamboo Moon could not help but whisper, "If Liang Yan isn't Danzong, where are Bao Kai and the rest? Could it be that they are together? Or perhaps, like her, they have joined other immortal sects?" With Bao Kai and the rest talents, as long as they did not reveal their identities, it would not be difficult for them to become disciples of immortal sections. Now is not the time, Su Yin said in a low voice. Their primordial spirit cultivation is extremely strong. They might be able to hear the voice transmissions. Since Yan is safe, it means that the old leader and the rest are safe too. Bamboo Moon nodded. They were relieved. This news was too important to them. Seeing Liang Yan meant that Yi Yuan and the rest were safe. Immediately, they went to the ruins of the Celestial Court. As they approached, they heard some people talking. This is the ruins of the Celestial Court that once shook the undying celestial domain. It is said that 1,000,000 years ago, a branch of the Celestial Court was located here. They dominated the 10 strongest continents, the 9 Cauldrons continent. They were strong since ancient times. The peak of prosperity leads to decline. The Heavenly Court was too strong and thus declined. Yeah, a few years ago, I heard that the Xianhuang universe was completely destroyed. The Celestial Court also disappeared. This was a supreme clan that once influenced the undying celestial domain and was even the creator of the Emperor Road. The Celestial Court. In the ruins, there were many onlookers. They passed by and came to take a look at the scenery. The ruins disappointed the crowd. Someone sighed and said, "The Celestial Court was destroyed." Before it was destroyed, a person's monarch board appeared in the sky. Is this considered as a consolation to the souls of the Celestial Court? Maybe. That Su Yin also fell. It is said that the Xian people are the mastermind. Alas, once the strongest force, they even created the heavenly domain space-time. It's really a pity. A large number of cultivators gathered here. There were true immortals who came from the nearby continents to participate in the 9 Cauldrons auction. Of course, they would come to take a look. Every day, there was an endless stream of onlookers at the ruins of the Celestial Court. There were also some people who walked around and observed. "Don't you want to go in and take a look?" Bamboo Moon asked. Hearing this, Su Yin said in a low voice, "There is no need. We have seen it before. If there is still something in the ruins, it should be at the intersection of the broken dragon veins. If it was at other places, it would have been taken away long ago." Until now, Su Yin could still vaguely sense that there was an ancient influence at the intersection of the dragon veins, which deceived people's exploration. What shocked him was that the broken cauldron was trembling slightly. Perhaps there was a great opportunity hidden here. What is there to feel sorry about? So what if it's extinct? It's not worth mentioning. A group of people walked over from afar, angrily scolding the people around them. They were from the Xian people. Their faces were gloomy. Xian Hongda was killed by Su Yin. Even the Xian people lost a group of true immortals. The 2 patriarchs were also resentful. Although the Celestial Court was destroyed and the Xianhuang universe was darkened, Xian Hongda was still a disciple of the patriarchs. Although he was not a virtual immortal, his talent was superb. It was a pity that he died so young. Su Yin's eyes were cold. He did not expect to meet a few young disciples of the Xian people. If a virtual immortal came and killed him, the Xian people would most likely die of heartache. Su Yin's killing intent surged. He was a little restless. Chapter 1434. A few young men from the Xian people looked unfriendly. They scanned the cultivators who were discussing with each other with threatening eyes. Wherever their eyes passed, the cultivators kept quiet out of fear. These people didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Seeing that they were from the Xian people, some of them left in a hurry, fearing that they would cause trouble. Xian people. Liang Yan clenched her fists, hatred flashing in her eyes. Su Yin died in their hands. The scene of that year was still fresh in her mind. In the end, Su Yin wanted to come out from the darkness, but he couldn't, and he would never come back. After so many years, thinking about it again, her heart still felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. Liang Yan suppressed the emotions in her heart. Even though she had also come to the undying heavenly domain, the strongest cultivation world, the immortal race was still high and mighty. They were still the most domineering orthodoxy in the undying heavenly domain. Let's go. They didn't stay on the Dan Shui peak for long. After a few glances, they left. Danzong wasn't afraid of the Xian people. This sect was also an immortal orthodoxy, and it focused on alchemy. It enjoyed a high status in the cultivation world. Usually, when some factions wanted to refine high-quality pills, they would think of Danzong first. Liang Yan joined Danzong. With her talent in alchemy, she was highly valued by the Danzong. It wouldn't take long for her to become a golden Danzong alchemist of the younger generation. Su Yin stared at the three powerful immortal tribe cultivators. He could vaguely sense that he was about to make a move. Bamboo Moon held Su Yan's arm. Her snow-white slender hand landed on Su Yan's palm. She could feel that Su Yan's hand was trembling. This was the anger in his heart boiling. Don't worry. Su Yan looked at Bamboo Moon. A few immortal realm cultivators weren't worth his time. The Xian people chased away a large number of cultivators. Only a few reputable cultivators stayed. They were even chatting with each other. May I know your name? At this moment, a green-robed man's eyes lit up when he saw a fairy-like woman in white. He quickly walked over and said enthusiastically, I'm in Xian people. Miss, you came here alone. How come you don't even have a servant with you? What he meant was that he treated Su Yin as heir, not worth mentioning. He even looked at Su Yin with a hint of warning in his eyes. It was as if he was saying, if you know what's good for you, get lost immediately. Who is this woman? This appearance, tis TSK, what a stunning beauty. I've seen almost all the peerless beauties in the 9 Cauldron continent. However, this is the first time I've seen her. Her looks are comparable to the 3 great beauties. Something's not right. This woman only has a mortal body. Could she be immortal? There were many disciples of the 9 Cauldron continents gathered here. They were all amazed. However, Bamboo Moon's beauty was unparalleled. In their eyes, cultivation was not important at all. If they brought her along, they would definitely gain a lot of face. Bamboo Moon did not reply. She frowned slightly. Immortal Sholi was very bold. He directly reached out and grabbed Bamboo Moon's slender hand. She was just immortal. He could do whatever he wanted. TSK Tisk. Immortal Sholi was overwhelmed with emotions. He did not expect to have an unexpected gain. He could not help but recall some beautiful memories. His heart trembled. He could not help but smile evilly. Little beauty, Bam. Suddenly, a palm appeared. It covered the sky and landed solidly on Immortal Sholi's face. This attack was too sudden. Immortal Sholi's mind was focused on Bamboo Moon's beauty. He was not prepared or defended. The slap landed squarely on his face. Half of his face instantly collapsed, and 7 or 8 of his teeth broke. He even spun around on the spot. Su Yan's slap had blackened his eyes. The surrounding people were stunned. Were they seeing things? Immortal Sholi was a disciple of the Xian people. But what were they seeing now? A young man slapped Immortal Sholi. Was this a slap to the Xian people? Or was this a great Immortal Sholi? In any case, they were stunned. Their eyes widened, and they did not know what to say. B** starred. Immortal Sholi roared. His eyes were bloodshot. He was like a mad beast. His chest heaved violently. He was about to explode. Who dared to do this? Who dared? But he was slapped in front of so many people. Immortal Sholi roared furiously. His aura erupted. Immortal light spewed out of his pores. His 9th level Immortal Realm aura surged out and charged toward Su Yin. Scram! Su Yin let out a thunderous roar. Similarly, the divine power of the 9 heavens surged out along with the sound waves. He wanted to kill Immortal Sholi. Boom! Golden ripples filled the sky, causing the world to tremble. Su Yin was so powerful that he had only recovered a small portion of his godly power, and he had already destroyed the energy source that was attacking him. The sound waves from his roar caused Immortal Sholi to tremble again. Puff! He coughed out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He crashed into a pile of ruins, his head bleeding. Ah! Immortal, Sholi roared in pain. He wanted to get up, but it was really difficult. He fell into a pool of blood again and roared in grief and anger. Kill him! Kill him! Several Xian people's experts were furious. They glared at Su Yan. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. They shouted, "Be Astra-starred! How dare you hit our Xian people? You must be tired of living. Attack together and take him down." Nearby, some disciples of the aristocratic families did not say anything. They did not attack. Although they wanted to befriend the Xian people, they were more afraid of the young man who dared to slap the Xian people's experts. Su Yan's eyes were cold. He strode forward. His long black hair danced in the wind, and an unusual aura was released. Kill! The three experts attacked together. They used their strongest power to kill Su Yan. The energy tide that filled the sky surged. When the surging energy tide came into contact with Su Yan, the spectators were all shocked. They saw Su Yan take out an immortal Dao talisman and suppress the killing energy in the sky. He waved his fist in extremely fast speed and hit the first Xian people's young expert. Oh no, it's an immortal Dao talisman. Several immortal realm experts panicked. With the immortal Dao talisman guarding Su Yan, they could not break through Su Yan's defense. This fist also smashed an immortal realm expert's head and made him bleed. He was sent flying and crashed into a pile of rubble. Su Yan turned around and rushed toward the second Xian people's expert. Boom! At this moment, Immortal Sholi stretched out his blood-stained hand. There was a talisman in his palm. The moment the talisman exploded, the sky shook and the earth trembled. Energy surged, and a divine light rushed out. At the top of the ruins of the celestial court, an ancient word full of majesty was formed. The Xian people's signal talisman. Someone was shocked. This was serious. Once this thing was released, it could be seen clearly from 1,000,000 miles away. If there were any Xian people's experts nearby, they would rush here immediately. Let's go. Su Yan pulled Bamboo Moon and ran. He looked a little panicked as he rushed toward the ruins of the celestial court. You can't escape. The ruins of the ancient celestial court are very big. It also has a shocking influence since ancient times. He can't escape in a short time. Immortal Sholi said coldly. My race is Xian Tianhe, isn't an ancient city nearby. He can definitely rush here immediately. Who did he say? Xian Tianhe. The disciples of the nobles were shocked. What kind of existence was Xian Tianhe? He was one of the 10 Xian people. The 10 Xian people were rumored to have 7 false immortals. After Xian Honda died, one of the 10 prodigies was missing. The Xian people only recognized Xian Tianhe as one of the 10 prodigies in recent years. It was said that Xian Tianhe was very close to becoming a false immortal. He might even be a false immortal expert. What kind of existence was a false immortal? A true overlord, an invincible existence that could dominate the battlefield in the Emperor Road's 10,000 tribe battlefield. Once this kind of person came, would Su Yan be able to escape? He's scared. He's running away. Another seriously injured young Xian people shouted angrily. Just you wait. Our young experts will come. He won't be able to escape. In short, the young Xian people were tempted. What was the big deal about killing a few clowns? Su Yan's target was the Xian people's false immortals. Killing them would be enough to drive them crazy. Even Su Yan wanted to fight this kind of person. This was a test to test his current combat power. Besides, Su Yan chose to rush directly into the ruins of the Celestial Court because this place was extraordinary. After a long time, although the Supreme Layout was broken, the layout was still there. Su Yan had the ability to reconstruct the broken layout. What could a group of true immortals do, let alone Xian Tianhe? He passed through layers of ruins and headed toward the intersection of the layouts. He believed that this place was not a secret. The undying celestial domain would definitely have the ability to detect the extraordinariness of this place. However, would there really be treasures left behind in the ruins of the Celestial Court? Su Yan could not be sure. Now, Su Yan had arrived at this ancient area. Due to the extremely strong influence of the layouts, Su Yan's exploration ability was greatly reduced. The moment he arrived, he felt isolated from the world, as if he was standing in another time and space. Su Yan looked at the ruins. In this ruined world, he could not see anything special. Chaos. This was Su Yan's first impression. When he looked again, there was nothing but emptiness. He couldn't see anything clearly. Su Yan was shocked. He was a grandmaster of the occult sect and had refined the innate eye. However, he could not see anything. This place was really strange. Why do I feel a sense of familiarity? Su Yan came to the center of the broken layout. It was a huge rift valley. He could tell that this was the place where the strongest dragon veins gathered in the 9 Cauldron continent. Suddenly, Su Yan was confused. He felt a sense of familiarity, as if he had been here before. Su Yan was even more confused. Why would he have such a feeling? He was already a pseudo-immortal. His sixth sense would not be born for no reason. Could it be that he had been to the celestial court in the 9 Cauldron continent before? Boom! In an instant, the broken cauldron rumbled. The ancient cauldron shone and spat out the light of the universe. On the cauldron wall, 9 ancient stone diagrams flashed. Su Yan was shocked. This was the first time he saw a change in the broken cauldron. Could it be that the broken cauldron was related to the celestial court ruins? He stared at the stone diagrams in the middle. His mind seemed to have sunk into the passage of time. In an instant, he felt a sense of aging. Su Yan was shocked and cut off the connection. What was going on? The broken cauldron was countless times more majestic. The stone diagrams were like boundless universes, unfathomable. The cauldron was changing. It was like a heavy weapon that could suppress a continent. The aura it emitted was like the collapse of the ancient star sea. It was boundless. Whoa! Special symbols scattered down from the cauldron wall. They were reflected in the dark rift valley. This place immediately emitted a strange light, accompanied by the passage of time fragments. The rift valley shone. The vast passage of time fragments gathered together as if they were being smelted, forming a space-time vortex that led to the past, present, and future. Finally out. Suddenly, an old voice sounded in Su Yan's heart. It was like thunder from the 9 heavens. Big brother. Su Yan was overjoyed. He saw the passage of time fragments in the Rift Valley. There was a rather imposing figure that stepped on the river of time and crossed the long passage of time to arrive here. It was the prehistoric Big Brother. Chapter 1435. Bamboo Moon's mind was stirred. She also saw the prehistoric Big Brother. How could she forget her Big Brother's demeanor? In the past, her Big Brother had even taught her the Tao. Now, she saw the prehistoric Big Brother again. She felt that it was too dreamy. However, this imposing figure was different from the Big Brother they knew. His aura was unparalleled and could swallow the river of time. The space-time he was in was dim and lightless. It was as if the entire universe was in a state of eternal silence. How strong was he? This was an unknown. In short, he was the symbol of invincibility. His might suppressed the entire space-time. This was their Big Brother's awakened state. Although he looked like an old man, there was no sign of aging. The vitality in his body was so vigorous that it could suppress the vast continent. It was terrifying beyond compare. What kind of person was this? His divine might was unparalleled. Su Yan called out, but there was no response. At this time, Su Yan realized that they were not in the same space-time as their Big Brother. They were separated by 1,000,000 years. However, in an instant, Su Yan's hands and feet turned cold. He felt as if his Big Brother had discovered him. With a quick glance, he was shocked. How strong was this person? Even after such a long time, his past self could still sense Su Yan. That child, Bamboo Moon, was in a daze. What happened next was unbelievable. The prehistoric Big Brother oversaw the celestial court of the 9 Cauldron continent. The area he was in was the world's top celestial ground. It was the strongest dragon vein in the 9 Cauldron continent. It was as if there was life there. It spouted the essence of the sun and moon, seizing the fortune of the heavens. After accumulating for a long time, it became a peerless treasure land. But one day it was filled with energy. Where the 9 Cauldron dragon vein gathered, divine light surged and illuminated the universe. It formed a special scene. It was as if the heavenly embryo that had been sleeping for billions of years was stretching its body in the chaos. With a roll, the heavens and earth trembled. Of course, no matter how big the fluctuations were, their big brother was omnipotent and suppressed all phenomena. His eyes were filled with kindness as he gazed towards the dragon vein. He saw a blood-colored heavenly coffin appear. Within it was a fair and clean child. He walked over unsteadily, swaying back and forth, still unable to walk steadily. This child was only 1 or 2 years old. His eyes were clear and flawless. He was like a porcelain doll. However, he was also very extraordinary. His body was filled with a dense, innate spirituality that caused all life in this world to lose its luster. The little guy called out in his childish voice, but no one knew what he was saying. He seemed to be tired and sat down on the ground. As he breathed, boundless energy began to surge like a sea of clouds and penetrated his little body. However, during this process, his flesh shone brilliantly and dazzlingly. It was like a miniature immortal furnace that automatically rejected the impurities and filth of energy, untainted by the mortal world. Inconceivable! What kind of heavenly embryo is this? The functions of a human body are too tyrannical. They refine the essence of energy and expel waste. His bloodline is a bit complicated and special, but it contains the strongest bloodline of our race. Did he experience some kind of special change? There were also some old people from the Celestial Court who were here, and they were happily discussing. The prehistoric big brother sat cross-legged in the air and laughed heartily. He saw boundless potential in this child. However, the older brother was a bit worried. He looked at this child and felt that his future wasn't simple. He would experience a great disaster, and he didn't know if he could handle it. Facing so many disasters, it won't be easy for him to grow up, the prehistoric big brother said, following which he chose to go into seclusion to deduce the child's future calamities, hoping to find a way to avoid them. The fair and clean child was ignorant of the unknown. The flourishing celestial court attracted his attention. His clear eyes gazed at the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, and earth. After all, he was a pure and flawless child who wanted to know everything and grasp everything in his hands. The celestial court of the 9 Cauldron Continent also had children of the same age as him. There were also many older brothers and sisters. The little guy lived here without any worries. He played with the children of the celestial court every day. He grew quickly and looked like he was 2 or 3 years old in just a month. Stinking brat, don't run. Stop right there. 1 month later afterwards, a 7 or 8-year-old girl flew out from a divine fire cave. She was young, but her aura was astonishing. She was like a little phoenix spreading its wings. The little girl was flustered and exasperated as she chased after the little guy. Although he was only a month old in the truest sense of the word, his speed was astonishing. The little boy was full of spiritual chi. He could catch up with the sun, moon, and stars and cross rivers and mountains. His speed was ridiculous. Mine, he smiled happily. His fair little hand was holding a little phoenix. He ran around the world excitedly and could flip over mountains with a somersault. He was like a little monkey. He was truly a god. Give it back to me. The little phoenix girl was furious. Last time, the little phoenix was secretly taken away by him. In the end, he played with it until it was half dead. Her heart ached for him for a long time. Amidst the mountains and great earth, laughter could be heard. A small figure leapt into the starry sky. His head of nimble hair fluttered behind his head. He really was like a little deity. Standing in the starry sky, he could compete with the sun and moon in splendor. The little phoenix was so angry that she lost her temper. This child is becoming more and more extraordinary. When he grows up, I'm afraid he can pick the stars and catch the moon. The old man in the celestial court laughed loudly. The little phoenix is an incredible genius. In the future, she will definitely be the supreme overlord of the Emperor Road. She is usually very proud, but when she sees this little guy, she shivers. This child will definitely achieve great things in the future. He's only a month old, and he's already the king of the children. We should think of a name for him. We should let the ancestral master come out of seclusion and give him a name." The old men were very happy. What kind of clan was the Celestial Court? A 1-month-old little guy had already become the king of the children. What could he do in the future? In the outside world, the broken world revealed a sacred scene. Su Yin was silent. Bamboo Moon, who was beside him, could not calm down for a long time. What was this? Was this child Su Yin? It was too unbelievable. What kind of potential was this? Su Yin saw it clearly. He came out of the blood-colored coffin. He was sent out of the ultimate place of the Emperor Road. He had lived here for more than a month. It changed. Su Yan's heart tightened. The originally sacred and peaceful place had undergone a shocking change at this moment. In the outside world, more than 10 masters of the occult sect took action. They forcefully opened up the field and used various treasures to open up a tunnel that led to the interior of the Celestial Court. The great change came too suddenly, and it was also too outrageous. Hundreds and thousands of experts rushed in. All of them were top-notch experts. Their auras filled the entire world of the Celestial Court, causing the vast buildings to collapse. Who dares to offend the Celestial Court? There was also a large group of experts in the Celestial Court. They were all furious and roared, blocking the experts who were charging toward the Celestial Court. What kind of clan was the Celestial Court? Who dared to attack the Celestial Court? This was something that had never happened in a long time. Now that a large group of experts had come with murderous intent, the experts in the Celestial Court were enraged. They let out an earth-shaking roar as their auras spread throughout the entire 9-cauldron continent. Some of the experts who had charged and were blown up. Their physical bodies collapsed and exploded into bloody light. However, there were simply too many experts charging in. Some of them laughed sinisterly as they brandished their spears and hacked a large group of their clansmen to death. Even a few children were blown apart. They didn't even have time to cry out before they were blown to pieces. A little child was standing in the depths of the Celestial Court. He had witnessed the great change with his own eyes. His eyes were red as he screamed. Although he still couldn't understand what death was, he still couldn't understand. However, a group of playmates who were close to him had been blown to pieces and evaporated by the terrifying blood energy. The little child cried out in pain and wanted to rush over to help them. However, several elders in the depths of the Celestial Court blocked Su Yin. Their expressions were uncertain. Just what had happened that caused several ancient orthodoxies to join forces and kill their way into the Celestial Court branch. Didn't they know what this meant? Bastard. An expert came out of seclusion. He was like a primordial divine phoenix, engulfing the entire continent. His combat strength was simply too tyrannical. He raised his large hand and slapped this sinister-laughing assailant to death. However, several existences who weren't inferior to him immediately pounced over. Their auras were cold, and their movements were too fast. They waved their large hands and filled the sky with supreme divine power, suppressing this expert who seemed to be a primordial divine phoenix. "Grandpa!" The little phoenix cried out in fear. The entire Celestial Court had changed. It was no longer peaceful and tranquil. This place had turned into a purgatory in a short period of time. Torrential ferocity surged as more and more people rushed in from all directions. They began a massacre of all life in the Celestial Court. "Bastard! Who dares to bully the Celestial Court?" More and more terrorist leaders of the Celestial Court came out of seclusion. They roared furiously. "Do you want to wipe out the entire race? TSK, TSK. Not a single corpse remains in the ultimate land. Everyone has fallen. What's the Celestial Court? It's time for your era to end." An ice-cold voice exploded, spreading through the blood-soaked Heavenly Court's pure land, causing great chaos and panic. The powerful Celestial Court was facing a calamity of destruction. Some terrifying orthodoxies had joined forces to destroy the Celestial Court and occupy the Xianhuang heavenly region. Once they succeeded, they would rewrite the history of their race. The war was tragic. The entire 9-tripod continent was dyed red with blood. Even the dozens of continents nearby were trembling. How terrifying was this war? The ancestors of the immortal orthodoxies had revived and issued a warning. They ordered their disciples to not step into the nine-tripod continent. This was because they had seen the truth. They saw the celestial cord of the nine-tripod continent covered in bloody light. The entire race was being massacred. Let's go. Take the children and leave this place. Return to the Xianwang heavenly region. There were too many enemies. The experts of the celestial court found it extremely difficult to resist. Many of the top experts burned their life force to resist the massacring experts of various races. Open the ancient array platform. An expert roared. However, as soon as he spoke, his body was slashed apart by the killing sword and exploded in the void. Wong. Inside the celestial court, many ancient array platforms were activated to escort a group of children away. It's useless. Even if they really escape, there will be no celestial court in the future. They're just stray dogs that will be hunted down and killed. The future of the immortal celestial domain will be ours. The era of the celestial court will come to an end. The experts were like demons as they let out eerie voices. They killed a large number of celestial court guardians and killed their way into the depths. Some of the experts looked around as if they were looking for something. Arg! The murderous aura surged and cracked the nine heavens. The celestial court was stained with blood. Countless lives were lost, and the prehistoric Big Brother was awakened from his slumber. He was enraged, and his aura was unparalleled. In an instant, he was like a dominating demon lord that killed a large number of experts who rushed out of the celestial court. The invincible aura rippled and caused the entire nine cauldron continent to tremble. Boom! The prehistoric Big Brother roared and punched out. It was as if he was waving an emperor's fist. He was incomparably tyrannical and blasted a path of blood. He destroyed a dozen experts, and his aura filled the entire celestial court. No matter how many experts there were in the world, they could not withstand his aura. Many of the slaughterers could not hold back and prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling. Who gave you the guts? The prehistoric Big Brother was furious. His eyes were burning like two universes, shooting out killing lights that swept through the experts who were exploring the depths of the celestial court. Moreover, a huge hand appeared behind him. It truly covered the sky and covered the sun, covering the bleeding celestial heavens. It was going to destroy all of the perpetrators with a single slap. Suddenly, a peerless aura filled the outer space. It was as if an immortal king had descended. It emitted a majestic aura that crushed a corner of the celestial court and shattered the huge hand formed by the laws of order. What a terrifying aura. It's comparable to a primogenitor. Zhu was awakened from his slumber. When he saw an immortal king descending upon the blood-stained celestial court, he said in shock, "It's him. He's actually still alive." Chapter 1436. The Way of the Emperors Only. You know him? Who is he? Su Yan's face darkened. The change in the celestial court had a huge impact on him. Now that the instigator had appeared, Su Yan really wanted to know who he was. Even when he was young, he was among them, but Su Yan did not know about this memory. It was as if it had never appeared before. But it did, and it made Su Yan's blood boil. Xian people. The prehistoric Big Brother's eyes widened. His aura was unparalleled, but he was also the ancestor of the Xian people. He was not inferior to him. The Big Brother oversaw the nine cauldron continent and was not inferior to any of the ancestors. The ancestor of the Xian people was enough to be his equal. His expression was extremely ugly. What had happened? I don't know his name. Giant Bamboo said in a low voice, but he is the ancestor of the Xian people. These few words were enough to express his high status. What kind of existence was the ancestor of the Xian people? His divine power was unparalleled, and he had lived for an extremely long time. This was an invincible giant, an unparalleled powerhouse. Giant Bamboo had seen the ancestor of the Xian people before. This was a powerhouse on the same level as Sky Bamboo's ancestor. But according to the time, the ancestor of the Xian people should have also gone to the ultimate land. How did he survive? Everything that had happened here had happened only a month after the final destination had taken place. The ancestor of the Xian people, Suyin, clenched his fists, and a crazy killing intent flashed in his eyes. Anyone could see how terrifying he was. He raised his hand and destroyed the old godly phoenix. "Grandpa!" Little Fire Phoenix cried bitterly. The old godly phoenix was slapped to death by him. Even several terrifying existences were slapped to death by the ancestor of the Xian people. His combat power was too domineering, and he was invincible. He was like a celestial king, terrifying beyond compare, and his ferocious aura shook the ages. Boom! He attacked again. The extent of his combat power was unimaginable. The Nine-Cauldron continent was about to explode. His two golden hands were about to tear apart the entire celestial court and the entire Nine-Cauldron continent. It was difficult to imagine just how powerful these terrifying giants were. Many experts in the celestial court branch were trembling in fear. It was difficult for them to get up. This was a progenitor-like existence. His godly aura covered the world. Under his body, the whole world was flickering. The chi and blood rising from his pores caused a small part of the vast celestial court to collapse. Ah! The prehistoric big brother let out a loud roar and swung his fist at the Xian people's ancestor. Bang! The huge Nine-Cauldron continent trembled, and the surrounding continents trembled as well. The moment the terrifying auras collided, the prehistoric big brother retreated. However, his eyes were filled with coldness, madness, and murderous intent. Hee, how can you fight me when you're worried? The Xian people's ancestor sneered. Although I don't know who you are, I've been in charge of the Nine-Cauldron continent for some time. I've always wanted to fight you. With my level, why should I care about the life and death of an ant? Damn it, Su Yan roared. The invincible big brother was forced back. However, everyone could see that once these two experts started fighting, the celestial court would be completely destroyed. Just now, they had exchanged a punch, but the big brother was worried. He suppressed the celestial court with his peerless combat power. Otherwise, the celestial court would have been destroyed. Bastard, the prehistoric big brother said coldly. You want to destroy the celestial court branch? You're not strong enough. If you really want to fight me, let's fight in the outer realm. Let's fight to the death. Ha ha! The Xian people's ancestor roared angrily. His hair danced like a waterfall, and terrifying light spewed out from his mouth and nose, causing the sky to tremble. The immortal Tao was under his feet. He was simply the symbol of invincibility. His might was astonishing, and his figure had a deterrent force that could pierce through the past, present, and future. Moreover, he was standing in the immortal dome world as if he was the ruler. It's fine to agree to this condition. We can even protect the old, weak, women, and children. We can even let them retreat. The Xian people's ancestor sneered. However, hand over the blood-colored coffin that floated out of the ultimate land. This is an unchangeable condition. The prehistoric big brother's face was gloomy. Suddenly, he raised his large old hand. In an instant, his aura changed, as if he had merged with the time and space of the heavenly domain. The moment he raised his hand, a heavenly brush appeared, as if it represented the heavens. Heaven-opening brush, stop him. More than 10 grandmasters of the occult sect roared, their eyes red. This was the supreme treasure of the celestial court, the heaven-opening brush. It was also known as the most powerful supreme treasure of the occult sect. It could change heaven and earth, as if it represented the heavens. The starry sky was the picture, and the rivers and mountains were the chessboard. This was a dream-level supreme treasure. Now that the heaven-opening brush was activated, it really changed the entire time and space. In an instant, a majestic aura was released. The celestial court seemed to have disappeared, replaced by an endless dark starry sky. Kill! The prehistoric big brother erupted without any fear. Wherever his peerless figure passed, the starry sky dimmed, and the sun and moon sank. At this moment, he was powerful and peerless, looking down on the past, present, and future. He also seemed to have stepped on an era. He charged in front of the Cien people's ancestor and waved his peerless fist toward the Cien people's ancestor. Kill! The Cien people's ancestor also roared. Boundless light rushed out from his body, and he was like an immortal king reflecting the universe's stars. He waved his large hand and fought with the prehistoric Big Brother. Boom! In an instant, heaven and earth were filled with blood. The world became blurry, and countless large cracks appeared. Their battle prowess was too domineering. It was enough to sink an entire continent and sweep across the universe. The bursting energy distorted the long river of time and created an eternal and still time and space. The prehistoric Big Brother's fists drew blood. His moves were tyrannical, and he used his strongest battle prowess to bombard the Cien people's ancestor. Fist after fist, palm after palm. Suddenly, the heaven-opening brush formed a world and isolated the battle. However, a shocking aura still swept out and swept across the entire Nine Cauldrons continent. Then, divine energy surged and rushed out, shaking the four seas. The moon fell from the blue sky. The glorious battle shocked all the immortal sects. They looked at the celestial court branch in the distance and saw blood staining the starry sky. The entire Nine Cauldrons continent was dyed red with blood. It was as if the blood of an immortal king had turned into the Milky Way and poured into the nine heavens. Give me your life. The prehistoric Big Brother was incomparably domineering. He charged forward again and attacked the Cien people's ancestor. However, two figures suddenly appeared beside the Cien people's ancestor. The moment they closed in, their auras became infinitely terrifying. They were not inferior to the Cien people's ancestor. One of them was like the lord of the underworld. Energy filled the air, and a fog that could easily cover the entire continent. He said coldly, "Hand over the ultimate treasure. We don't want to start a war with the Celestial Court now." The ultimate land was destroyed in a battle. It was suspected that no one had walked out alive. However, the fortune had been taken away by the Celestial Court. They had finally confirmed the direction after deducing that their destination was here. This also led them to gather a large number of experts and besiege the Celestial Court. Of course, this was not the only thing they wanted. They also desired the evolution of the celestial domain spacetime. The Celestial Court's celestial emperor had already fallen. That was why they dared to attack the Celestial Court without any scruples. The other person could change the world with a raise of his hand. He was the ninth great ancestor of the celestial domain. He controlled the space-time of the celestial domain and had received heaven-defying combat strength. He looked at the heaven-opening writing brush with red eyes, longing to obtain this dreamlike treasure. The prehistoric Big Brother did not say a word. He charged forward. The three ancestor-level experts. Since he's unwilling, let's kill him. We'll explore the fortune ourselves. It should still be in the Celestial Court. Let's work together to kill him. There are still experts in the celestial domain. Once they arrive, there will be some changes. This was a battle that the outside world did not know about. The location of the battle was in the world created by the heaven-opening writing brush. It could be said that the sky was collapsing. No matter how strong Su Yin was and how strong his essence spirit was, he could not witness this battle. However, he could vaguely see that the prehistoric Big Brother was being beaten back. His body was stained with blood, and he was like a peerless fiend god, exuding terrifying combat strength. In an instant, he reached out his hand and enveloped the weakest ancestor of the celestial domain. Stealing heaven art. He was terrified. This was the power of the stealing heaven art. It stole the divine power in his body, and the prehistoric Big Brother's aura skyrocketed. Kill! The prehistoric Big Brother roared. He was like a god of war who had broken the shackles. The ancestor of the Cien people roared. The prehistoric Big Brother attacked at a speed that was almost invisible to the naked eye. He tore off one of the ancestor's arms at lightning speed and sent the ancestor flying with a punch. Kill! The prehistoric Big Brother was fighting with his life. He wanted to kill them, even if he had to pay with his life. However, since the top 3 experts were here, they were prepared. The heaven-ruling writing brush. The samsara disc of life and death. Juju was shocked and said, "This is the ultimate treasure of the underworld. It controls the cycle of life and death. The heaven-ruling writing brush of the Odd Heaven sect is the ultimate treasure of the Odd Heaven sect. The Odd Heaven sect of the underworld." Su Yan's eyes were filled with hatred and anger. He had heard of the 2 great celestial domain orthodoxies. Moreover, the underworld had the power of reincarnation. It was the most powerful ability in history, the power of reincarnation. The Odd Heaven sect was the gathering place of the Odd Heaven sect. It had a high status in the immortal celestial domain. Who would have thought that the Odd Heaven sect was also involved in the celestial court? They actually brought the ultimate treasures of the 2 ancient orthodoxies. Su Yan was shocked. Was this the reason why his big brother was injured? The 2 ultimate treasures suppressed the prehistoric big brother. In the process, they released a light that shattered the celestial Tao. It was about to tear apart the world created by the heaven-opening writing brush. Even though the prehistoric big brother was extremely powerful, he could not resist the ultimate treasures of the Odd Heaven sect. He was facing a shocking pressure. The prehistoric big brother roared. The wheel of reincarnation affected him too much. It was as if he was suppressed in the purgatory of reincarnation and had to go through a cycle of reincarnation. Was this the reason why his big brother could only recover with reincarnation medicine? Was he affected by the wheel of reincarnation? In the end, Su Yan saw a black sword embryo being pulled out. In an instant, the world of the heaven-opening writing brush collapsed. Immortal slaying sword. Juju's voice trembled. One of the 10 strongest ultimate treasures, the immortal slaying sword. What is this? Su Yan roared. The moment the immortal slaying sword was pulled out, his primordial spirit blazed. The 4 heaven-punishing sword Tao inheritances that were floating inside almost flew out. Could it be that this thing was related to the skeleton? Bamboo Moon's eyes turned red. Her big brother was in a difficult situation back then. He was attacked by 3 primogenitors and was even suppressed by the ultimate treasures of the 3 sections. Who could survive? Of course, the most powerful one was the black sword embryo. Once it was pulled out, there was a scene of 10,000 immortals dying in the sky. A tragic aura spread out, as if it was going to cut down the heavens. Chapter 1437. Su Yan's heart skipped a beat. What was this sword embryo? Could it be related to the skeleton? It was said that the Xian people dug it out from a treasured land. When the fairy-slaying sword appeared, it killed the Xian people's Daluo perfected immortals and almost split the whole continent apart. In the end, the ancestor of the ancestral hall stepped in and grabbed the fairy-slaying sword. Bamboo Moon's scalp went numb. When the fairy-slaying sword appeared, even the Daluo perfected immortals were killed. Just how strong was this sword? Could the skeleton's origin really be that terrifying? Could it be that the fairy-slaying sword used to be his treasure? Su Yan was shocked. He had inherited the true teachings of the skeleton and cultivated the heaven-destroying sword path. He believed that there were very few supreme arts in this world that could surpass it. As of now, Su Yan had not even reached the complete realm of the second heaven-destroying sword path. However, the heaven-destroying sword mantra had 4 different mantras. Once the 4 mantras were mastered, what kind of earth-shattering scene would it be? He even brought the fairy-slaying sword. Is it to guard against the Jojo Heaven Cauldron? But the Jojo Heaven Cauldron isn't in the Celestial Court. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to take down the Celestial Court. The ancestors of the Mystical Gate were terrified. This murderous weapon was too terrifying. It was so strong that even their primordial spirits felt pain. The fairy-slaying sword's sharpness was terrifying. It was listed as one of the top 10 supreme treasures. The Xian people had the fairy-slaying sword. Only the sword sect's heavenly hegemon sword could be compared to it. The sword sect mainly cultivated the way of the sword. This orthodoxy had been passed down for a long time. Every generation of the clan produced a peerless sword immortal who was invincible among their peers. The sword immortals of the sword sect would almost always be in the top 10 of the emperor rankings. The heritage of this clan was not inferior to the Cien people. In the past, the sword sect had gotten into quite a bit of conflict with the immortal clan because of the immortal slaying sword. The main reason was that the sword sect's He Gem in Heaven sword was known as the #1 sword in the world. However, ever since the immortal slaying sword appeared, the He Gem in Heaven sword's position had been severely threatened. Suppress. The samsara disc of life and death that the Lord of the Underworld wielded had opened the 6 paths of reincarnation. This supreme treasure could even grind a true immortal of the great firmament into dust in a single exchange. Although it was extremely difficult to grind the prehistoric big bro into dust, the terrifying light of reincarnation bloomed, trapping the prehistoric big bro in the samsara purgatory. At the same time, the founder of the mystical gate used the imperial heaven brush to guide the power of the heavenly domain to suppress the prehistoric big brother. Under the combined suppression of the supreme treasures of the 2 great immortal sects, the prehistoric big brother felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He was like a chaotic beast trapped in purgatory. He struggled violently and wanted to kill his way out. Boom! However, a terrifying sword light slashed out. It was filled with the power to slash apart 10,000 immortals. Its aura was tragic to the extreme, as if it was going to cut down the heavens. In an instant, blood splattered and dyed the entire 9 cauldron continent red. Big brother. Suddenly, it was just a scene of a prehistoric battle. However, Cien was still enraged when he saw his elder brother's head being chopped off and his body being suppressed by the samsara disc. He couldn't use his power to reverse the situation. Bam! Just like that, the blood-stained corpse of the prehistoric big brother fell from the sky and smashed into the celestial court. It was exceptionally tragic. Founder, everyone in the celestial court was in grief. Many living powerhouses roared, unable to bear the pain in their hearts. He had a special status in the celestial court, but now his head had been chopped off and his broken body fell into the celestial court, his flesh shell torn apart. Does it have to be like this? The founder of the Cien people was cold and arrogant. He wielded the celestial slaying sword. How many people in the world could be his match? Moreover, once the head was chopped off by the celestial slaying sword, no matter how strong the person was, he wouldn't be able to survive. Because under the celestial slaying sword, anyone's primordial spirit light would be extinguished. Even powerhouses of the same stage were no exception. Boom! The 3 founder powerhouses walked out of the world created by the heaven-opening writing brush, causing a sea of bloodstorm. The world was filled with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Countless creatures were bathed in blood and exploded. The entire celestial court was destroyed in an instant, dyed red with blood. The prosperous 9 cauldron continents surged with bloody light, radiating out like a raging sea. Even the dozens of continents nearby trembled with it. The powerhouses of the various immortal sects trembled. The invincible life force of the leader of the celestial court had dissipated. He should have died. Sob, sob, Grandpa. The little child cried bitterly and ran to the prehistoric big brother. His clear eyes were blood red as he shook his blood-stained arm. The 3 founders were shocked. Other than some people who escaped by relying on the ancient array platform, all the living beings in the celestial court were dead. Only the little child was still alive? How special was he? Let me take a look at him. The Lord of the Underworld reached out a large hand and grabbed at the little child. Haze billowed in the sky, covering the sky and the sun. The world fell into a state of darkness, filled with fear and oppression. The little child cried loudly. However, looking at the large hand that was grabbing at him, he was not afraid. He clenched his fists and said angrily, "You bad people, you killed Grandpa and so many people. I won't forgive you in the future." This sentence sounded childish and laughable. However, the resolute words still echoed between heaven and earth. The little child looked only a few years old. His hair was light and flawless. His small body was slightly thin, but he had an imposing aura. He was like a young heavenly god standing in the sky. Little bastard. The Lord of the Underworld's eyes flashed with malice. His large hand approached, and billowing black haze drowned the little child. The result shocked the Cien people's founders. The black substance that filled the sky was the sinister energy of the underworld. Not to mention ordinary people, even Daluo golden immortals would be in great trouble and danger if they were affected. However, the moment this energy invaded the little child, it was blocked by layers of holy light. This holy light was like a flower of the great Tao that had taken root billions of years ago. It flowed with a misty radiance and automatically blocked the invasion of the sinister substance. Even the little child's flesh and blood glowed. It was dazzling and translucent, as if a divine fetus was breathing and seizing the creation of heaven and earth. He was in danger. The root of wisdom in his frontal bone was born. It was enough to understand the supreme profundities of heaven and earth and draw upon the origin of heaven and earth. He even drew upon the energy of the universe and evolved a defensive technique. The Cien people's founders' expressions changed. Even people as powerful as them lost their composure. What kind of heavenly fetus was this? It was too unbelievable. He was able to comprehend a divine ability's secret art on his own and used it to defend himself. They had lived for a long time, but they had never seen a cultivator with such heaven-defying talent. How old was this child? He looked no more than 2 or 3 years old. This was too ridiculous, wasn't it? Could he be the next celestial emperor of the celestial court? What a pity. The mystical gate's founder's expression was gloomy. It was a pity that such a good seedling could not be recruited into the sect. After all, the blood of the celestial court flowed in his body. Even if his memories were erased, he would still be powerful in the future. He could also know about the tragedy that happened back then. This child can't be left alive. The Lord of the Underworld was shocked. Was this the son of the celestial emperor? It was actually so unimaginable. His large hand fiercely slapped down, and the sky exploded. Black radiance surged like a tsunami and rushed toward the little child. The child was very weak, his figure thin and frail. Only the Tao flowers were protecting him. Now, the black haze that filled the sky began to devour the Tao flowers and the little child's powerful life force. In the process, the little child became weak. In the past, he could compete with the sun and moon. Now, his body dimmed and began to become ordinary. He had lost his innate talent. In the end, his eyes dimmed. The little child trembled and fell to the ground. He struggled in a pool of blood. It was a pitiful sight. "What are you doing?" The Cien people's founder frowned slightly. The Lord of the Underworld's palm was suffused with a sinister aura. Complicated patterns flashed and formed a devil seed. The devil seed sprinkled down radiance, shining on the little child's thin body and urging his innate talent to begin to transform. In fact, what kind of existence were the 3 of them? Why did they have to target a child? They could have just slapped him to death. Why waste time? The Lord of the Underworld said eerily, "It's a pity to kill such a strong, innate talent. Why don't we let him become an ordinary person in the mortal world and look up to the experts of the immortal orthodoxies?" That's not bad. Infernal demonic seed. At this moment, the occult sect's founder said in surprise, "So this secret art really does exist. It can affect one's innate talent. Amazing. Little thing, are you still going to say those ignorant words?" The Lord of the Underworld sneered. "The infernal demonic seed will transform your innate talent and make you the same as an ordinary person. It will even make it difficult for you to enter the path of cultivation in the future. Are you still going to say those stupid words? My grandfathers told me that the heart is strong, not innate talent, not aptitude, and not resources." The little child was very weak, but he still said seriously, "Don't you even understand this?" These days, some Tao masters of the celestial court preached the Tao and taught the child the ways of cultivation. They explained many truths and famous sayings to guide him on the right path in the future. "You." The Lord of the Underworld's face darkened. He then shook his head and said, "I'm the ancestor of the Underworld. How boring. If it wasn't for your innate talent, I wouldn't have bothered to waste my time on you. Since you think the heart is strong, then I'll dig your heart out and see what you can do." Bam! The black hand suddenly reached down and tore the little child's chest apart, trying to dig out his heart. The child screamed in pain. His face was pale and his clear eyes dimmed. He had lost his innate talent. However, he didn't make a sound. He was very stubborn and fell into a pool of blood. However, just as he was about to touch the little child's life, the Lord of the Underworld's actions seemed to have angered the heavens and sent down a heavenly punishment that could destroy the world. Boom! Wisps of majestic aura awakened and filled the entire blood-stained celestial court. Then, it continued to be vast and mighty. The extinguished aura of invincibility was once again ignited in the Nine Cauldrons continent. It was a scene of gods and devils dancing wildly. The scene was monstrous. The vast Nine Cauldrons continent trembled violently. The dead god of war came back to life. His might suppressed all living beings in the universe. The terrifying light radiating from him made the distant continents tremble. It was as if they had seen the return of a person who could suppress the entire central celestial region with a raise of his hand. Everything happened too suddenly. The headless corpse lying on the ground got up. It was as if a devil emperor who had broken through reincarnation had awakened. "He's alive." The Sien people's ancestor roared and let out a warning sound. Bam! The headless corpse waved its blood-stained hand. It ignored time and the passage of time. In an instant, it split open the protective divine light of the Sien people's ancestor and hit his chest. He spat out a mouthful of blood. The powerful Sien people's ancestor was severely injured. His body flickered and looked like it was about to explode. Bam! He was sent flying. Even though he was invincible and powerful, he was still severely injured by the prehistoric Big Brother's close-range attack. Even the Lord of the Underworld and the ancestral master of the Cheeman sect were severely injured. The prehistoric Big Brother had killed them in an instant. It was difficult for them to gather a strong defense in a short time. The three ancestors were sent flying. Their bodies were badly mutilated and they let out deep roars. They found it hard to believe that the invincible being in charge of the celestial court was still alive. He could even reconstruct his body. It was simply unimaginable how powerful he was. His primordial spirit was still there. Even his body, which had been crushed by the samsara wheel, could still be revived. The child's dim eyes became dimmer. He had forgotten a lot. He had almost forgotten the prehistoric Big Brother and the entire celestial court. He saw the headless man stand up. He raised his hand, grabbed the blood-stained head, and pressed it against his neck. There was a strange energy flowing in his body, giving it astonishing vitality. It pulled him back from the gate of death, and even began to reconstruct his body. This was a high-level heaven-mending art. It could be called the immortal mending art. Even if he suffered serious injuries, he could recover as long as he had enough vitality. You all deserve to die. The miserable state of the celestial court also stung the prehistoric Big Brother. He let out a furious roar, and the sound waves were vast and mighty. Divine radiance collapsed the clouds and swept through the bleeding celestial court. Countless executioners knelt on the ground. This was an irresistible suppression that made them despair. Then, a large number of experts also exploded. Too many people had died. Under the fury of the prehistoric Big Brother, they exploded into bloody light. The bleeding celestial court once again ushered in great changes and calamities. Too many people had died. It disintegrated in an instant. No matter how great one's cultivation was, they couldn't withstand the prehistoric Big Brother's unparalleled slaughter. Bastard, we can kill you the first time, and we can kill you the second time. The 9 continent cauldrons are not in the celestial court. Let's see what you have to resist. Although the 3 ancestors were heavily injured, they still had fighting strength. They attacked from afar to stop the prehistoric Big Brother's crazy actions. If this continued, the experts they brought along would all be wiped out. In an instant, the prehistoric Big Brother became delirious. There was a sword scar on his head, and also the influence of reincarnation power, making it difficult for him to control himself. Roar! The prehistoric big brother clenched his fists, and his hair flew wildly. He was like a devil emperor of a generation. His soul trembled violently, and he suppressed his mind that was about to lose his mind. His expression was cold. He raised his hand and smashed the land of the 9 cauldrons dragon vein. A vast tide of energy surged from it. This was the strongest land of fortune in the 9 cauldrons continent. It exploded and was destroyed. Since the celestial court branch couldn't be protected, this land of fortune couldn't be left to the 3 major immortal sections. In the middle, as the vast tide of energy surged, a blood-colored heavenly coffin rose into the sky. The blood-colored heavenly coffin even sat on a magnificent ancient space-time road that led to the Xianhuang territory. Just like that, he took the child and the blood-colored heavenly coffin along an ancient space-time road and left. Stay here. The Xian people's ancestors were furious. They waved the immortal slaying sword, wanting to cut open their escape route. However, once this route was used, the formation platform collapsed. The prehistoric big brother had already disappeared without a trace. He rushed into the void and started to return. I'll be back. I'll leave the heaven-opening writing brush in the celestial court. I'll wait for the strongest hero of the celestial court to regain control of it. Su Yin vaguely heard the prehistoric big brother's murmur. He was worried that there would be other variables on the way. Therefore, he left the heaven-opening writing brush in the celestial court ruins. Big chapter, I've changed it a few times. Sorry, brothers, I updated late. Chapter 1438. Today, Su Yin was in the ruins of the celestial court. Here, he saw too many things that he wanted to know. In prehistoric times, there was a great disaster here. It was also the beginning of the collapse of the myth of the celestial court. The prehistoric big brother, whether it was Su Yin or Bamboo Moon, wanted to know the origin of the old man. What was his identity in the black-yellow universe? Now, the truth was finally out. Although they didn't know the big brother's position in the celestial court, the big brother who oversaw the 9 cauldrons continent's celestial court branch was an ordinary person. How could he be an ordinary powerhouse? Even in the ultimate battlefield where the celestial court's army of billions fought, the good fortune that was sent over was controlled by Big Brother. This meant that the Big Brother didn't participate in the battle of the ultimate land. The ancestors of the Xian people, the lord of the underworld, and the founder of the mystical gate. The 3 ancestors attacked the celestial court back then for the blood-colored coffin. Now, Su Yin also understood that the blood-colored coffin was the cause of the Emperor Road's ultimate land and the root cause of the final battle. It was too important. This thing was still in the later progenitor and had not been lost. Back then, the prehistoric Big Brother was disturbed by the samsara wheel and the immortal slaying sword. For millions of years, the Big Brother was delirious and had been in a state of deep sleep. It was not until Su Yin found the reincarnation elixir that the Big Brother recovered to 60 to 70% with the stealing heaven technique that he regained his consciousness. Su Yin's body stiffened, and his body rose and fell violently. What about himself? He came to the celestial court branch from the ultimate land and lived for only a month before he was sent to the black-yellow universe. There is no doubt that he was severely injured back then. He was sealed in the black-yellow universe's origin and nourished by the origin power for millions of years. In the end, it was the old leader who brought Su Yin out. Until now, after hundreds of years of growth, Su Yin had seen a part of the truth. It was difficult for him to calm down. He had experienced too much in the past. Just like what his big brother had said, he had been plagued with misfortune. This was because his talent was too monstrous, and he was envied by the heavens. What was the infernal seed demon? Unbelievable! The giant bamboo was also touched by Zhong Yu's words, and he lost control of himself, as he said, "The infernal seeding devil is one of the most sinister secret techniques of the infernal lineage. After encountering the infernal seeding devil, you were able to step back into the cultivation realm and even grow into a false immortal expert. Senior, do you know what kind of secret technique this is?" Su Yin was in a bad mood. "I know a little. The giant bamboo said, "The infernal sea devil can transform a person's potential and aptitude. It can corrupt the powerful physiques of the world and even corrupt the foundation of the immortal Tao realm. It is a secret of the infernal lineage. Once one is affected by the sea devil of hell, not only will it be difficult for one's strength to improve, it will even continue to degenerate." The giant bamboo said in a deep voice, "It's understandable. This is a type of curse that is exclusive to the underworld. In that case, does the current me still have the influence of the infernal seeding demon?" Su Yan's expression was calm. It had been 1,000,000 years. He survived. Instead of dying, he had once again stepped onto the path of cultivation. Although he did not have heaven-defying talent, he had a firm heart. It was very difficult for him to reach this step. He had paid too many hardships and tasted all kinds of suffering. However, the current Su Yan was already a false immortal. Although the infernal seeding demon had cut off Su Yan's peerless talent, he did not become depressed. He still stood up. Perhaps one day, he would be able to find his peerless talent again. However, what special conditions would be required? The world did not know. However, Su Yan did not care too much about it. So what if one's talent was strong? Without great perseverance and courage, one would never be able to reach the realm of an expert. Su Yan stood there quietly. His emotions were stirred. He looked at the ruins of the celestial court from afar. He could vaguely hear the sounds of fighting and crying. A scene of purgatory on earth appeared in Su Yan's eyes. It appeared above the ruins of the celestial court. "Ah!" Su Yan suddenly roared into the sky. His long black hair fluttered like an injured beast. He roared at the ruins of the celestial court. "Am I an unlucky person?" Su Yan, Bamboo Moon's heart ached. She did not want him to think like that. The destruction of the celestial court of the Nine Cauldrons continent was closely related to Su Yan. The ancestors of the Xian people only knew that the blood-colored coffin was a supreme treasure that flew out of the ultimate land. However, they did not know that Su Yan also came out of the ultimate land with the blood-colored coffin. After the destruction of the celestial court, the Xianhuang heavenly region was invaded by the devil fog and completely degenerated from the heavenly region space-time. Originally, the Xian people were afraid of the Xianhuang heavenly region and did not attack their base camp. However, the invasion of the dark matter caused a large number of experts in the Xianhuang universe to wither. This also gave them a great opportunity. The Xianhuang universe was almost crippled. In the end, the universe had no choice but to seal itself. After 1,000,000 years, it suffered another catastrophe. Perhaps this was cause and effect. The child whose talent degenerated 1,000,000 years ago rose and sheltered the Xianhuang universe from the wind and rain. He became the pillar of the Xianhuang universe and even resolved the crisis of the extinction of the races. Now, he was standing on the ruins of the celestial court. His emotions were surging and his eyes were filled with tears. "I'm back. I'm here to see you." Su Yan's eyes were filled with tears. He clenched his fists and roared at the ruins of the celestial court. The terrifying bloodline was released. The Book of Beginning was also running. On behalf of the destroyed celestial court and the Xianhuang universe, he was announcing his return. It was as if there was a spirit in heaven and earth. It was also as if the remnant soul was not extinguished. Vaguely, wisps of special influence were released. It was like a lonely ghost screaming, scaring away many crows. It was as if a group of people who had passed away were standing on the ruins of the celestial court. They were standing in prehistoric times and looking at Su Yan. "I'm still alive. One day, I'll avenge you." Su Yan knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the ruins of the celestial court. He made a great wish. One day, he would let the celestial court stand upright between heaven and earth and seek an explanation for the tragedy of that year. In this vast land of ruins, the broken mountains trembled and thousands of trees shone as if they were about to be resurrected and restore the vitality of the past. Vaguely, Su Yan felt that he had become very powerful and had become the most tenacious warrior in the world. It was like a special kind of luck of the race was affecting Su Yan. Ancestors Please bless me in the underworld. Su Yin let out a final roar and stood up. He was particularly tall and eye-catching. Even in the ruins of the celestial court, he was like an invincible king. He was suffocating and peerlessly powerful. Senior brother, look. On this day, the ruins of the celestial court, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly roared. It was as if a thunderclap had exploded within, deafening everyone's ears. Outside the ruins, some people were entrenched. Their expressions were uncertain. They seemed to have heard the sound of crying. It was very horrifying and made their hair stand on end. Immediately after, the sound of crying erupted. It was very loud and caused the dark clouds to collapse. The ruined mountains and rivers shook, and the withered leaves that filled the sky fluttered and rustled. Don't panic. It's just a lonely soul. A man arrived. His eyes were like lightning, and his aura was powerful. He rushed into the sky and was about to penetrate the void, immortal domain. Xian Tianhe. Some of the disciples of the influential families who were entrenched here were all moved. This person had come. He was one of the 10 Jia of the Xian people, Xian Tianhe. Although he was not a void immortal yet, anyone could sense that he was only one step away from becoming one. It was too difficult to step into the void immortal realm. It was not something that could be achieved with words. No matter how terrifying the immortal race was and how heaven-defying their foundations were, there was only one 7-colored primordial immortal tree in the primordial world. However, Xian Tianhe was very confident that he could enter the void immortal realm before the opening of the 10,000 tribes battlefield. Now that the 9 Cauldrons auction was about to start, he hoped that the 9 Cauldrons auction would bring him some unexpected surprises. Xian Tianhe looked coldly at the ruins of the celestial court and said, "In the past, this place was filled with corpses and blood. Billions of people died here. The aura of violence was too strong. It slowly dissipated after hundreds of thousands of years. Although some stray dogs survived, they're nothing to worry about. But the celestial court has collapsed. Can these ghosts still cause trouble?" Xian Tianhe was very powerful. He looked down at the ruins of the celestial court. He was able to keep his cool and was not frightened. However, the changes in the ruins of the celestial court were getting more and more extraordinary. Xian Tianhe could vaguely see the dense immortal essence in the vast territory. It was about to form immortal dragons that were about to rush into the ruins of the celestial court. This caused the ruins of the celestial court to become dazzling. The most powerful orthodoxy that had been lost was about to return. Countless broken mountains shone, and countless collapsed palaces shone. The dark ruins of the celestial court were now extremely sacred. Could it be that a supreme treasure has appeared? It has been millions of years. It is said that there are still a few supreme treasures in the celestial court that are missing. Xian Tianhe was excited. He shouted, "All of you follow me inside to have a look." He led a dozen immortal realm cultivators and even a few half-step immortal realm cultivators towards the ruins. Are we going or not? Some of the disciples of the influential families wanted to join in the fun, but someone stood out and stopped them. What could they do even if they entered? The treasures and opportunities would not belong to them. Moreover, Xian Tianhe was still here. He might even kill them to silence them. They watched as Xian Tianhe and the group of powerful cultivators disappeared from their sight. This group of people walked high and mighty. They admired the ruins along the way and remembered the achievements of their ancestors. They knew very well that the reason the celestial court was in such a state was because of the Xian people. Their journey was smooth and unobstructed. They also easily discovered a breath of life that was quickly approaching Su Yin. "Senior brother, it's him." Xian Tianhe's face darkened. He pointed at Su Yin and said, "It's this brat. I didn't expect him to hide here." Xian Tianhe looked at Su Yin with disdain. He waved his hand casually and said, "Kill him immediately. Searching for the treasures of the celestial court is more important. Also, don't kill the woman beside him. Keep her alive." Su Yin turned his head. His black hair hung loosely, and his aura gradually calmed down. He looked at the group of cultivators from the Xian people. He was slightly disappointed. He wanted to use the immortal blood as a sacrifice to the dead. He did not expect only 4 half-step immortals to come. At this moment, Xian Tianhe led a group of immortal cultivators and charged towards Su Yan. They sealed off the surrounding space to prevent him from escaping. Come back. However, Xian Tianhe's expression kept changing. He vaguely sensed that this young man was not simple. He was too calm. Although Xian Tianhe and the others were unwilling, they still returned. However, just as they turned around and were about to return to their original spot, Su Yan, who was standing at his original spot without moving, let out a loud roar as his blood burned with rage. Roar! The ruins of the celestial court shook from Su Yan's roar. A thunderous boom rang out in the ruins. It surged and swept across the ruins. Su Yan, who was in the pseudo-immortal realm, was terrifying beyond compare. His chi and blood were vigorous, and his soul light shot into the sky. No, the dozen or so immortals were terrified. The sound waves filled the sky. Their primordial spirits collapsed as they suffered a destructive blow. The pseudo-immortal realm. His primordial spirit had become an immortal. He was invincible among his peers, or a dozen or so immortals to him. Their primordial spirits exploded. The 4 half-step immortals were terrified. They had goosebumps all over their bodies. It was as if they had seen the return of the invincible Overlord of the celestial court. Die! Come here! Su Yan roared. His hair was disheveled, and he was majestic. He raised his fist and punched forward. The brilliance of the peerless fist illuminated the ruins of the celestial court. It was dazzling and blazing. It was as if it had regained its glory and was about to rule the world again. Chapter 1439. What happened? What a terrifying aura. Is this Xian Tianhe? I didn't expect him to be so powerful in this realm. Outside the ruins were some disciples of the 9 cauldron continents. They were all shocked. Although they could not see clearly what was going on in the depths of the ruins, they could feel the rising blood chi, as if a perfected immortal was roaring. Something's not right. At this time, some perfected immortals also stopped outside the ruins. They looked into the depths of the ruins and saw a blurry figure shrouded in divine light. It was extremely brilliant, and the energy waves it emitted shattered the clouds in the sky. But at the same time, they could see that this person's soul light was burning brightly. There was a terrifying secret force that was fusing with his flesh and blood. He was one with the Tao, and he was a false immortal. This was not a perfected immortal, but a false immortal expert. The perfected immortal was terrified. False immortals were too rare. Even in the prosperous immortal sects, they were limited. It was said that the Xian people only had 7 false immortals. Of course, this was only on the surface. There must be a certain number of false immortals in the dark. They were the strongest prodigies of the Xian people. Moreover, the Emperor Road had been sealed for millions of years. Some immortal sects must have had peerless false immortals sealed away, waiting for the Emperor Road to open. Therefore, no one knew how many false immortals there were in the immortal sections. He's a false immortal. The 4 half-step perfected immortals were terrified. Although they were only half a step away from becoming a perfected immortal, what kind of existence was a false immortal? They could defeat half-step perfected immortals and even fight perfected immortals to the death. Su Yan's fist radiance was terrifying. It was accompanied by an unparalleled, ferocious aura, an endless blood boiling with anger. In the ruins of the celestial court, he attacked and killed 4 half-step perfected immortals. We can't leave. He's going to kill us. Kill him. Fight him to the death. The 4 half-step perfected immortals roared and took out their natal treasures. There was a bell, a pagoda, a killing sword. Their secret treasures burned, and as their bodies began to revive, for blurry immortal Tao lights exploded, trying to stop Su Yan. But the people charging at them were ultimately too tyrannical. Even when he was at sempiternal realm, he was able to defeat a half-step true immortal. Needless to say, Su Yan was currently at pseudo-immortal realm. Even though he was not at sempiternal realm yet, his fighting prowess was more than enough to drive a half-step true immortal to despair. Boom! Su Yan's fist blasted forward. causing the dome of heaven to explode. Even the shattered stars in the sky were trembling chaotically. This fist wanted to pierce through the river of time and release the essence energy to return to the prehistoric era to participate in a bloody battle. Bang bang. The four secret treasures were deformed by Su Yan's punch and began to disintegrate. False immortal. Zhu laughed in anticipation. Su Yan has reached the void immortal realm. This is great. He also has the indestructible body. If he can cultivate the indestructible body to the minor completion level, he'll be able to deal with the strongest inheritors of the immortal sex. Su Yan's rapid growth was, of course, due to Zhu's scheming. The seven-colored pure immortal elixir helped Su Yan reach the pseudo-immortal realm. The four secret treasures began to explode in the sky. The terrifying figure traversed time and space, his hair fluttering in the wind. His eyes were like lightning, and his void, immortal aura enveloped the four half-step true immortals. The four of them were in despair. Their divine souls were trembling, and their flesh and blood were collapsing. They were about to die. Who was this person? They were from the Xian people. But this person did not say a word and started a massacre without caring about the consequences. Could he be an expert from the Celestial Court? Could it be that the strongest wanted criminals had nurtured a terrifying descendant? They felt that the possibility was very high. Among the 10 most wanted criminals in the undying heavenly domain, a few of them were former generals of the Celestial Court. They had lived for millions of years, and yet they had not been caught. This was enough to show how powerful they were. Just the immortal Dao stones that the Xian people had put on a bounty of 100,000, but they still could not find any trace of them. At this moment, they seriously suspected that Su Yan was one of the outstanding prodigies that had been nurtured by these wanted criminals. Puff! Blood rained down from the sky. Su Yan's fist radiance was unparalleled, and he punched through the four half-step true immortals. He walked through the blood-stained ruins, and with each step, he charged towards Xian Tianhe. The descendant of the Celestial Court, Xian Tianhe was very calm. From the beginning to the end of the battle, he did not panic at all. As one of the Tening Jie and the descendant of a perfected immortal of the great all-embracing heaven, Xian Tianhe was not afraid of Su Yan at all. Su Yan's aura swallowed the stars. He was majestic and domineering. He did not say a word. No answer. That means you admit it. Xian Tianhe was very calm. He laughed angrily and said, I didn't expect that the Celestial Court could produce a virtual immortal remnant. I'm a little surprised. However, no matter how strong you are, so what? Although I, Xian Tianhe, have just become one of the 10 heroes, it shouldn't be difficult for me to kill you. Get over here, Su Yan shouted coldly. You're asking for it. Xian Tianhe's face was filled with anger. In an instant, he attacked and charged towards Su Yan. At first, Xian Tianhe seemed to be very calm. However, when he charged towards Su Yan, he suddenly pulled out a sword embryo that shone with golden light. The sword embryo was intertwined with the mysterious laws of the immortal Tao. It vaguely emitted a murderous aura that could kill thousands of immortals. When the killing sword was unsheathed, the vast ruins of the Celestial Court were also filled with the source of destruction. This was a shocking explosion of sword radiance that could easily cut down the stars in the sky. It's a replica of the immortal slaying sword. Su Yan, be careful. Zhu was shocked. He didn't expect Xian Tianhe to have such a treasure. Even a true immortal expert might not have such a rare treasure. Moreover, it was a replica of the immortal slaying sword. Su Yan's expression was cold. Although it was only a replica of the immortal slaying sword, it was still a rare treasure in the immortal Tao domain. The sword body flowed with the power of the immortal Tao. This was a shocking treasure that Xian Tianhe had given him. It was a replica of the immortal slaying sword. In the immortal Tao domain, it was a top-notch item. If this sword embryo was used properly, it could easily kill a true immortal. Boom! Sword chi surged, containing the power of the immortal slaying sword. I haven't killed a virtual immortal before. I'll use you to test it. Xian Tianhe was full of confidence. He took a big step forward, and the golden sword body became more and more dazzling. Finally, a sword radiance surged, accompanied by a trace of the supreme, immortal slaying chi. Look, it's a replica of the immortal slaying sword. The radiance emitted by this sword embryo was so bright that it alerted the experts outside the ruins. Even the true immortals were shocked. This was because there was a trace of the immortal slaying sword's origin energy in this sword embryo. One could imagine how terrifying it was. This sword embryo was almost invincible in the true immortal realm. It was a rare treasure that could only be found by chance. This was also what Xian Tianhe relied on. With the immortal slaying sword in hand, even if he encountered a true immortal, it would be enough to intimidate him. Slash! The golden sword embryo slashed across the sky with a sword radiance. It was unstoppable. Even someone as powerful as Su Yin felt a fatal threat. Once he was hit by the immortal slaying sword, the trace of the immortal slaying sword's power would be enough to tear his soul and shatter his treasure body. It was enough to make even virtual immortals tremble in fear. It could destroy the order of the immortal Tao. However, just as it was about to hit Su Yan's head, the golden sword embryo roared and shook violently. It cracked the web between Xian Tianhe's thumb and forefinger. Oh no! Xian Tianhe's expression changed drastically. He realized that the immortal slaying sword was no longer under his control. The trace of the immortal slaying sword's power was unstable and showed signs of tearing the sword apart. What was this? He had obtained a replica of the immortal slaying sword many years ago and had long since refined it. Why did it not listen to his orders and want to fly out? Before Xian Tianhe could react, the most terrifying thing happened. Su Yin reached out his hand, emitting a terrifying aura that caused the surrounding void to crack continuously. It was extremely destructive. His hand even turned into a peerless slaying sword. It was filled with the supreme profundity of the immortal slaying sword as it pinched the sword. This is impossible. How could Xian Tianhe remain calm? He lost his composure and his face fell. He could not calm down when his opponent pinched the immortal slaying sword with 2 fingers. What was even more ridiculous was that Su Yin seemed to have mastered the immortal slaying sword. How could this happen? Get out of my way! Xian Tianhe roared. This was a replica of the immortal slaying sword. It was rare even among the Xian people and was extremely valuable. He could not let it fall into Su Yan's hands. Bam! He waved his hand at lightning speed and struck at Su Yan's throat. Su Yin held the immortal slaying sword with one hand with a calm expression. At the same time, he reached out with his other hand and struck Xian Tianhe's palm. Bam! There was a thunderous sound and blood splattered everywhere. It was a tragic sight. Ah! Xian Tianhe cried out in pain. His entire hand was mangled and his bones were broken. Even his entire arm was broken. Who are you? Xian Tianhe's face was distorted. He was no match for Su Yin. He could not even control the immortal slaying sword and was suppressed to the point where he could not even raise his head. However, he was extremely decisive. He immediately gave up on the immortal slaying sword and took out an immortal Tao talisman to attack Su Yin. After doing all this, Xian Tianhe quickly retreated. He wanted to leave this place and report this matter to his family. You can't escape. Get over here and accept your death. Su Yin shouted coldly. He moved the heavens, the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars. He stepped on the ruins of the celestial court like an ancient almighty who created the world. His aura surged like a bull, filling the ruins with boundless divine might. He was like a true immortal roaring. The power of tribulation bloomed and destroyed the immortal talisman. There was no doubt that Su Yin had advanced into the void immortal realm. His tribulation secret techniques had improved, and he could destroy the order of the immortal Tao. A mere talisman could not stop Su Yin at all. Who is that person? Is Xian Tianhe really so terrifying? The heroes were shocked. They were terrified even though they were far away. They saw a young king descend and trample on the universe like a war god who was going to trample the whole world under his feet. They suspected that he was not Xian Tianhe, but some other expert. In the end, Xian Tianhe was trampled to the ground by Su Yin. His chest was crushed. He was in so much pain that he wanted to die. Blood flowed out from his mouth and nose. He said angrily, "You won't live if you kill me. My father is Xian Changhe, a true immortal of the Xian people. I am also one of the 10 Jia of the Xian people. If any of us dies, you will become a wanted criminal in the immortal heavenly domain. Even Xian Honda has been killed. I don't need you." Su Yan's expression was cold. He placed his hands behind his back and looked down at Xian Tianhe. He said coldly, "Unfortunately, you are too weak. You don't even have the right to force me to attack. Are the 10 heroes of the Xian people a bunch of trash?" Chapter 1440. The bloody scene was shocking. Su Yan stepped on Xian Tianhe and crushed his chest. The reputation of the Xian people's 10 Jia fell to the ground. Su Yan, who was in the false immortal realm, was extremely strong and had few opponents in his generation. Xian Tianhe was strong, but he was not a false immortal after all. He had lost the replica of the immortal extermination sword. He had no strength to compete with Su Yan. Whether it was his primordial spirit, body, or immortal substance, Su Yan could crush Xian Tianhe. So what if he was one of the Xian people's 10 Jia? As long as he was not a false immortal, Su Yan had nothing to fear. However, his words made Xian Tianhe's hair stand on end. His heart was filled with disbelief. "You killed Xian Honda?" He pointed at Su Yan, the corner of his mouth trembling. Su Yan's words had a huge impact on him. How could he not know who Xian Honda was? If Xian Honda had not fallen, he would not have obtained the status of one of the 10 great heroes. But this person said that he killed Xian Honda? As the son of Xian Changhe, Xian Tianhe naturally knew that Su Yan had killed Xian Honda on the battle stage. After all, Xian Changhe had gone to the Xianwang universe during the battle. As his son, Xian Tianhe knew the inside story very well. Xian Tiran was almost driven crazy by Su Yan. However, Su Yan had died in the darkness. Even the entire Xianwang universe had been darkened. How could Su Yan, who dominated the mortal monarch board, still be alive? How could he have come to the immortal heavenly domain and entered the false immortal realm? Xian Tianhe was terrified. He said angrily, "That's impossible. You said you were Su Yan? What proof do you have? I don't believe that he is still alive." Back then, the Xian people had given the order to capture Su Yan and bring him back to the family head. In that battle, the Xian people had suffered heavy losses. However, in the end, he still managed to kill Su Yan and solve a problem for the immortals. But he was alive again? Xian Tianhe couldn't believe it. In fact, his expression had already betrayed him. He had to believe it even if he didn't want to. This was an irrefutable fact, and there was no need for him to use this matter to deceive him. Bang, bang. Su Yan raised his foot again and crushed Xian Tianhe's knees, forcing him to kneel in the ruins of the celestial court like a criminal. What a great humiliation! Xian Tianhe was on the verge of losing his mind. He yelled furiously, "I don't care who you are, but you're going to pay for messing with me and the Xian people. It doesn't matter if you can crush me. The Xian people still have Jia, an illusionary immortal, and the future supreme of the monarch ranking. False immortal Jia. I also want to see how strong you are." Su Yan sneered. "Don't worry, they don't need to look for me. I will look for them myself. Don't even think about it. You'll die a horrible death if you go against the Xian people." Xian Tianhe lost control of his emotions and yelled, "How can a brat from a lowly universe like you be a match for the illusionary immortals of our race?" But now, he was kneeling in the ruins of the celestial court. Moreover, he was one of the 10 Jia of the Xian people and the son of the ancestral patriarch. If this spread out, the Xian people would be utterly disgraced. Clang! At this moment, the sound of a sword resonated between heaven and earth. Su Yan raised his hand and grabbed the replica of the immortal slaying sword. He stared deeply at the golden sword embryo, and a mysterious aura flowed from his palm into the sword embryo. Buzz! The golden sword embryo glowed, and a wisp of immortal slaying chi was released. It was like a condensed sword dragon, burning fiercely. In an instant, It merged with a replica of the immortal slaying sword. "Who are you?" Xian Tianhe was terrified. He said that he was Su Yan, and he believed him. But who was Su Yan? Su Yan was stunned. In fact, this was the first time he had asked himself who Su Yan was. He could not help but sigh. Where did this skeleton come from? Where did he and the immortal slaying sword come from? What era did the inheritance that he grasped belong to? Immortal slaying sword Dao. Su Yan murmured as he stared at the golden sword embryo. This sword embryo contained a wisp of immortal slaying sword's origin sword chi. It could strengthen the power of the killing sword, but it could not completely merge with it. Now, Su Yan had merged it with the sword Dao of all heavens. In that case, Su Yan and the giant bamboo were both thinking the same thing. If Su Yan were to encounter the real Zhu Xian sword one day, would he be able to control the strongest treasure of the sect? After all, this was the immortal slaying sword, one of the 10 great treasures of the undying heavenly domain. Now, the golden sword embryo was boiling with immortal slaying chi. The sharpness that leaked out could easily split a person's soul. The sword embryo glowed, and together with the awakening of Su Yan's physical body, his aura skyrocketed. He was like a white-robed sword immortal. Very good. Su Yan's face was full of smiles. He did not expect to receive such an unexpected reward. He was indeed lacking a powerful killing weapon. Ordinary treasures did not catch his eye, but this golden sword embryo was just right for him. It was enough to make him like a tiger that had grown wings. At the same time, Su Yan's gaze was fixed on the area where the dragon's vein collapsed. "I'm going to take away the treasure left behind by Big Brother." Su Yan clenched his fist and let out a clear cry. In the process, his body glowed as if a condensed golden universe had bloomed. It flowed with the mysterious energy of the beginning of all things. The chanting of scriptures rumbled and turned into a large number of scripture runes that fell on the collapsed dragon's vein. Boom! In an instant, a deep space-time crack appeared on the collapsed dragon's vein, as if it penetrated into another world. In the direction of the crack source, there was an ancient heavenly writing brush floating up and down. This is the heaven-opening brush. Giant bamboo sucked in a breath of cold air. This was a supreme treasure that shocked the cultivation world. It was known as the strongest treasure in the field of mystical arts. The heaven-opening brush's value was immeasurable. This item could easily change the world and command the heaven domain spacetime. It was the most precious treasure of the celestial court. For the past 1,000,000 years, the heaven-opening brush had merged with the heaven domain spacetime, waiting for its summoner. Now, Su Yan had come and taken away the heaven-opening brush that had merged with spacetime. The moment Su Yan grasped the heaven-opening brush, he felt completely different. This is ridiculous. He looked at the heaven-opening brush in his hand. He couldn't see how strong the ancient heaven-opening brush was, but it was like a hand of the immortal celestial domain that was controlled by Su Yan. Bamboo Moon was overjoyed. Su Yan's origin brush had withered in the dark space in the past. Su Yan had always wanted to find another origin brush seed with enough potential. But now, fate had made a fool of him. He had obtained the legendary heaven-opening writing brush. Why is it called the heaven-opening brush? The heaven-opening brush can give me power now, but it's very difficult for me to unleash its true ability. Su Yan exclaimed. He was only a void immortal now. Even if he was given the strongest treasure in the world, he wouldn't be able to unleash much of its power. The heaven-opening brush and Su Yan felt connected by flesh and blood. He vaguely sensed the resonance of these bloodlines. Su Yan seemed to have been imperceptibly bestowed with some kind of talent. His understanding of the layout of heaven and earth soared infinitely, and his eyesight also greatly improved. In fact, from this moment onward, he would be able to see millions and millions of kilometers away. It seems that I can easily repair the broken field of the celestial court, Su Yan mumbled to himself. This thing was really terrifying. You're saying, this is the legendary heaven-opening brush. Xian Tian's eyes were fixed on the heaven-opening brush in Su Yan's hand. His eyes turned red, and his whole body trembled. How is this possible? He let out a heart-wrenching cry. This was a rare treasure that all the immortal sects in the world coveted, but Su Yin had obtained it so easily. He roared and screamed, full of indignation. Kill me. The consecutive blows were too much for Xian Tianhe. His mind collapsed, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes turned black. A murderous sword pierced through Xian Tianhe's forehead. Su Yin merged with the golden sword and unleashed the immortal slaying sword Dao. The golden sword spewed out a sword mark, which was branded in Xian Tianhe's mind. What are you trying to do? Xian Tianhe knew that he couldn't live. The sword mark could kill him at any time, but Su Yin didn't kill him. What was his purpose? You can't die yet. There's still a use for you. Su Yin had already gone far away, leaving behind an imposing back view for him. A voice rang out, "Kneel properly." The chaotic ruins of the celestial court slowly calmed down. The cultivators who were entrenched in the outside world were very curious. They wanted to know what was going on inside. Less than 10 breaths had passed. On this day, a shrill cry came from the depths of the ruins and exploded in their ears. They were all terrified. The voice was full of hatred. What had happened inside? Xian Tianhe could only cry, but he couldn't say a word. The sword mark was pressing on his soul and could kill him at any time. 2 hours later, a large hand struck out from the ruins, sending the cultivators outside flying. As for the only perfected immortal, he also turned around and left. Su Yin walked out of the ruins. Before he left, he glanced at the ruins and murmured, "I will be back." When the sun set in the west, night came. In the ruins of the celestial court, a few uninvited guests came. The leader was a woman. Her skin was white and translucent. She was wearing a long black dress, which made her look extremely seductive. Her eyes were as bright as black gemstones. 2 balls of fire were burning in her eyes. "What's wrong with the ruins?" the woman murmured. She was extremely beautiful. There was a flame mark between her eyebrows. She was very charming. Her red lips were bright red, and she looked like a female demon who could seduce people's souls. The changes in the ruins of the celestial court had caused a stir in the nearby ancient cities. It was said that one of the 10 Xian people hadn't returned for a long time. It was very likely that something had happened. "I want to go in and take a look." Beside the woman in the black dress stood a tall man with messy hair. He was a man of few words, and his martial arts aura was strong and oppressive. He was like a sleeping martial god. If Su Yin saw him again, he would be extremely shocked, because he was the Yi Yuan. "The Xian people are here. Let's go." Behind the two were several elders with powerful auras. They quickly led them away. Bang, bang, bang. Half an incense stick of time passed. In the distant world, waves of energy surged over, bombarding the vast ruins, causing them to tremble. "I want to see what kind of wandering ghost has come back to life." A few true immortals from the immortal race came. Their expressions were cold as they stared at the ruined land. They said coldly, "Could it be that there are some blind cultivators coming here to offer sacrifices to the dead? Our immortal race has killed countless of such people. We don't lack a few now." They heard the news that spread like wildfire in the ancient cities and immediately came. Some of the other experts also wanted to go in and take a look. Chapter 1441. More than 10 experts rushed toward the ruins of the celestial court. There were also some who followed them at a slower speed. The Xian people sent 3 true immortals. They were majestic and had arrogant expressions. The celestial court was destroyed in the prehistoric war. The Xian people had been strong since ancient times. They were known as the top 10 most powerful immortal orthodoxies. Their foundation was unfathomable. Even the ancestors of the Xian people had great skills and wielded the immortal slaying sword. Few people in the world could rival them. For immortal orthodoxies, if they did not have such people, they would have to lower their heads before the Xian people. Although the ancestors of the Xian people were injured in the war 1,000,000 years ago, they must have recovered after such a long time. However, even Xian Tairan and the others had only seen the ancestors a few times, let alone the true immortals. They were almost invincible giants in myths and legends. I wonder why the ruins of the celestial court are moving. Could it be that a treasure has been unearthed? That's not possible. After the Celestial Court branch in the Nine-Tripod continent was destroyed, too many experts came to search inside and outside. Everything was taken away. It's impossible for any treasure to be left behind. That's right. I heard that several grandmasters from the Mystic Heaven sect came. Even they did not find a treasure hidden in the ruins. It's obvious that the ruins of the Celestial Court have lost their value. The experts who followed them were discussing as they looked at the peaceful ruins of the Celestial Court. The ruins still existed because the Cien people were telling the world that this was their masterpiece, a masterpiece that they were proud of and left for the world to admire. The three true immortals of the Cien people did not believe that a treasure had been unearthed. One of them, an old man in green, said eerily, "It would be great if that's the case. A few small fries from the Xianhuang universe have gone missing. Maybe we can capture them alive." Xian Tianhe has the immortal slaying sword replica to protect him. Even if he encounters a true immortal expert, he is qualified to escape unscathed. Now that he hasn't returned, did he really encounter an enemy? The true immortals of the Cien people were discussing. They were very fast and had already rushed into the depths of the ruins. However, just as they were about to reach their destination, they smelled the scent of blood. "This is a member of my clan." The three true immortals of the Cien people had gloomy expressions. There were some corpses on the ground. They were obviously the corpses of cultivators of the Cien people. They had sensed the fluctuations of the remnant bloodline and determined their origins. The experts who came with them were all shocked. Who could have attacked the Cien people? Judging from the injuries, it was obvious that their battle bodies had been shattered by the roar. It was most likely the work of a true immortal. At this moment, miserable shrill cries resounded, and it shocked this group of experts. The faces of the Cien people and the other two genuine immortals changed. They tore through the void and rushed toward the place where the dragon vein had collapsed. When they saw the mangled Xian Tianhe kneeling on the ground, the three of them were so angry that blood almost flowed out of their eyes. The leading green-robed elder's face darkened as he said, "You evil creature, stand up." His calm voice was like thunder from the nine heavens, exploding above the ruins. At the same time, it also formed a shocking storm that shook the entire ruins. In an era where perfected immortals of the great all-embracing heaven rarely appeared, perfected immortals were powerful enough to dominate the world. The three genuine immortals of the Cien people glared at Xian Tianhe angrily. What was this place? This was the masterpiece that they were proud of. This was the Celestial Court branch that the Cien people's ancestor had personally destroyed. For millions of years, they had preserved the ruins in perfect condition to awe the world and the other major immortal sections. This place could be said to be a record of their achievements. It was their glorious achievement, their glorious conquest of the land. But now, Xian Tianhe, one of the 10 heroes of the Cien people, was kneeling in the ruins. This was a bloody humiliation for the three genuine immortals. The experts who came along with them all had a headache, and the cultivators who followed behind them were all terrified. What was going on? They knew very well what kind of person Xian Tianhe was, but he was kneeling in the ruins despite his noble status. If this matter spread out, it would be enough to destroy the dignity of the Cien people. "Bastard, stand up, you unfilial son." The genuine immortal in green robes came to Xianqing Mountain and almost roared at Xian Tianhe to death. If this matter spread out, the Cien people would be humiliated. He rushed up to take Xian Tianhe away and even try to keep this matter under wraps so that it could not be leaked out. "Roar!" Xian Tianhe roared, trying to warn the genuine immortal in green to stay away. He also wanted his father to come and heal the sword mark on his primordial spirit. But it was useless. He could not say anything. The sword mark was suppressing his soul, making it impossible for him to utter a single word. Xian Tianhe must have met a powerful enemy. Otherwise, he would not be like this. A foreign expert stepped forward to ease the awkward atmosphere. He said, "It must be a perfected immortal. The person who did this is too despicable. He bullied the weak and did not leave any dignity for the Cien people." The other two perfected immortals of the Xian people were furious. One of them said fiercely, "Investigate. No matter who it is, we must find him. He must not have run far. We must find him even if he has to seal the entire 9 Cauldron continent." The foreign experts were terrified. Seal the 9 Cauldron continent? The perfected immortals of the Xian people were really daring. The 9 Cauldron continent was one of the 10 most powerful continents. How could they seal it just like that? Once they did that, only God knew how big of a storm it would cause. "Trash, stand up." At this moment, the old man in green approached Xian Tianhe and raised his hand to grab Xian Tianhe. However, as soon as his hand reached Xian Tianhe, the old man in green's hair stood on end. A bone-piercing chill rose in his heart and his entire body. In an extremely short period of time, he also retreated rapidly. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying sword light shot into the sky. It emitted a terrifying airflow that could cut apart the immortal path. It distorted the entire space and time, and even Xian Tianhe exploded. No! The Xianqing mountain trembled, and all the hair on his body stood on end. He unleashed his most powerful attack and activated a dozen grand divine powers. The order runes on his body were burning, and he opened the gate of immortal path, trying to stop Su Yan's trump card. However, this sword was too sharp and peerless. Su Yan, who was in the pseudo-immortal realm, was even more powerful. Together with the replica of the immortal slaying sword, the power of the immortal slaying sword skyrocketed. Whoosh! A terrifying sword light appeared and cut through the entire universe. It tore apart the immortal path and then slashed on the body of the perfected immortal in green. Xianqing Mountain Run. The other two perfected immortals of the Xian people were furious, and their eyes turned red. They were so angry that their lungs were about to explode. The other party had suppressed Xian Tianhe, made him kneel here, and left a killing move between his eyebrows to kill the perfected immortal of the Xian people. Moreover, this killing move was too shocking. A huge rift appeared above the ruins, and the mighty power of the immortal path was cut apart. What a powerful sword intent! Who is it? In the faraway 9-Tripod city, an overlord of the sword Tao was awakened. He looked at the ruins of the heavenly court and shouted, "My sword sect has never had an expert who grasped such a murderous sword intent. This sword intent seems to contain the essence, energy, and spirit of the immortal Tao." Interesting, really interesting. Look, it's the #1 genius of the sword faction, the #1 sword under the heavens. 9-Tripod City was prosperous, and there were many experts and geniuses gathered there. However, on this day, a domineering sword light shot up into the sky. A figure was like 1,000,000 feet long sword light. Everyone of the same generation was terrified. Even the perfected immortals were terrified, as if they were going to be killed by the sword. The #1 sword under the heavens rushed out of 9-Tripod City and headed towards his destination. Along the way, the sword light cut through space and time at an astonishing speed. In the ruins of the celestial court, blood stained the sky. Xianqing Mountain let out an angry roar. The monstrous sword light slashed on his body. Xianqing Mountain had been operating the strongest battle. His strength blocked the power of the sword light. However, this sword's strongest trump card was to destroy the immortal path and even cut his primordial spirit. Although Xianqing Mountain was a level 6 true immortal and resolved the most dangerous situation, his immortal path was severely damaged, and his primordial spirit was also cut by the sword. A blood-red sword mark appeared between Xianqing Mountain's eyebrows, piercing through his sea of consciousness. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. His eyes were scattered, and he was crying and laughing at the same time. It was as if he had fallen into the purgatory of reincarnation, and he could not regain his senses for a long time. Who is it? Do you want to start a war with the Xian people? The other two perfected immortals could not hold back their anger. They shouted, and their faces turned pale. The opponent was too unscrupulous. He was clearly declaring war against the Xian people. After Xian Hongda, Xian Tianhe fell. Xianqing Mountain was severely injured. This was an injury to his primordial spirit, and it was extremely difficult to heal. Even his immortal path cultivation was cut by the sword. It would be difficult for him to improve in the future. It doesn't seem to be cut. Suyin stayed in a big city nearby and observed the ruins. He felt that it was a pity. His cultivation was not enough, and he could not use the strongest battle power of the immortal slaying sword. I've gained enough from this battle. It's more important to attend the auction. Suyin left under the cover of the night. He had obtained the heaven-opening writing brush, a powerful killing weapon. Even Xian Tianhe's space-time treasures did not disappoint Suyin. There were more than 1,000 kilograms of immortal pathstones, tens of thousands of immortal treasures, and even many other precious treasures. He had gained too much. He estimated that the value of the treasures was no less than 4,000 kilograms of immortal pathstones. On the way to Nine Tripod City, Suyin saw a shocking sword light that split space and time. Suyin was surprised to see a young man in gray. He was about 17 or 18 years old, and he was handsome with red lips and white teeth. This was an elegant and beautiful young man. Many girls who passed by could not help but take a few more glances. However, the sword intent that this young man emitted was extremely domineering. It was like a blade and was extremely shocking. Suyin looked slightly and saw the sect gathering swords transform into an unparalleled heavenly sword that swept through all directions. Suddenly, the young man in gray's gaze fell on Suyin. Their gazes met. Suyin's Khanate eye awakened on its own. As for the young man in gray's eyes, two beams of golden divine light sputtered out. The momentum was terrifying, and it caused the void to collapse. Suyin stood in the air, his eyes shining. He felt a faint stabbing pain. He seemed to see two immortal swords slashing at him with unstoppable force. I'll find a chance to spar with you. The young man in gray was a little excited, as if he had found a prey. He remembered Suyin and left quickly. He did not stay for long, and it seemed like he was heading to the ruins of the Celestial Court to find a sword expert to challenge. This guy, Suyin was surprised. The silent giant bamboo said, "He's the sword sect's peerless genius. The world's #1 sword." At this moment, Suyin heard some people exclaim. He was stunned. This title was a little arrogant. I didn't expect the world's #1 sword to come to the Nine Cauldrons continent. I wonder if he'll challenge various young experts. I'm afraid we won't have the chance to see it. The world's #1 sword hasn't fought for many years. Those who challenged him in the past all failed without exception. Even perfected immortals who were proficient in the way of the sword could not compete with him in terms of sword intent. You have to know that he once said that he would acknowledge anyone who could beat him in terms of the way of the sword as his master. Tis TSK, I've heard of this too. Because of this, the big shots of the Xian people were angry with him. However, reality has proven that he deserves the title of the world's #1 sword. Many people were discussing. The world's #1 sword was a legend. At the same time, he became stronger as he battled. He was the pride of the sword sect. Can the immortal slaying sword defeat the sword sect's unique skill? Suyin thought to himself. The sword sect's strength was undeniable. However, how many inheritances of the heaven-destroying sword path could surpass it? Chapter 1442. The #1 sword in the world rushed to the ruins of the Celestial Court, looking for an opponent excitedly. He looked arrogant and lonely. Of course, there were also quite a few young prodigies who had followed along. The towering sword will from before swept across the ruins of the heavenly court, causing many ancient cities in the surroundings to tremble, causing quite a commotion. Everyone rushed towards their destination. Interesting. The sword intent made him crazy, but it seems that it was not enough to kill him directly. No, could it be that the person who attacked him is not a true immortal? The expert of the Xian people is really useless. He was almost killed by a young man. The gray-robed young man came. He was extremely handsome. Although he looked older in his gray robe, it could not hide his charm as a handsome man in the undying heavenly region. He attracted the attention of many girls. After all, he was the #1 sword in the world and had a supreme reputation. He was a popular genius in the undying heavenly region. He stepped into the ruins and saw the Xianqing mountain. His words were vicious and impolite. His voice spread in all directions. Many people looked as if they had seen a ghost and did not dare to breathe loudly. The true immortal of the Xian people was livid. He raised his hand and was about to teach the gray-robed young man a lesson. "You are courting death." A cold light flashed in the eyes of the gray-robed young man. His aura exploded. His body shot out surging sword light like a sword and saber, fierce and blazing. The terrifying sword intent was released. The nearby cultivators were frightened. They felt that their bodies were being torn apart. The terrifying sword light was so domineering that it crushed their spiritual sea. Boom! A sword edge that could split the universe came out. The rolling sword light soared into the sky and formed an ancient heavenly sword. It didn't look like a treasure sword. Instead, it looked like a heaven and earth guillotine that could cut down kings. Heavenly dominating sword. The two true immortals of the Xian people looked terrible. They recognized his identity. In the sword sect, only one person had comprehended the essence of the heavenly dominating sword. From then on, he would be known as the #1 sword in the world. The heavenly dominating sword was like a sword and a saber. Its blade was so domineering that only the Xian people's fairy-slaying sword could rival it. The two true immortals forcefully suppressed their anger. This was the treasure of the sword sect's great figures. Once he was injured, it would definitely infuriate a group of sword immortals. That's it. Weren't you very impressive just now? The gray-robed youth had a straightforward temperament. He said whatever he wanted to say, which gave the two genuine immortals of the Xian people a headache. Where did the sword expert go? After that, he scanned the surroundings with his gaze and became restless. He really wanted to spar with this expert. Someone told him that Vicious had left a long time ago. The killing move he left behind had damaged Xianqing Mountain. This caused the #1 sword under heaven to feel extremely regretful. He also abruptly raised his large hand and pointed towards Xianqing Mountain's forehead. What? The two genuine immortals were shocked and furious. They were about to flare up when they realized that sword light surged from the gray-robed youth's finger, and the sword mark on Xianqing Mountain's primordial spirit was carved out. Xianqing Mountain immediately regained his senses. At first, he looked a little dazed. Then his old face turned ugly. He was so angry that his body trembled, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. It was too embarrassing. He was actually affected by a sword mark. He was crying and laughing as if he had lost his mind. He was a genuine immortal. Who is the culprit? Have you caught him? Xianqing Mountain flew into a rage out of humiliation. He even suspected that it was the sword sect's doing. After all, the person who did it had a terrifying sword that affected his immortal path and his primordial spirit. He could not figure it out. Apart from a sword sect, which had such sword immortals, could other forces really cultivate sword Dao experts? You really don't know who it is? The gray-robed youth stared at the golden sword mark in his palm. He glanced at Xianqing Mountain in surprise, as if he was looking at an idiot. Xianqing Mountain naturally did not know that the #1 sword in the world, who had a straightforward temper, sneered and said, "You're really useless. It's a waste for the immortal slaying sword to be in your clan. Sooner or later, I'll become an ancestor-level expert and take this sword away." The onlookers nearby were dumbfounded. This guy was really getting more and more arrogant. However, he had the right to be arrogant. No one in his generation could compete with him in sword Dao. This was the supreme glory. The three genuine immortals of the Xian people were furious, but they could do nothing about the #1 sword in the world. After all, he was only an immortal now. If they forcefully targeted him, the sword sect would most likely go crazy. "Fanjian, I think you're making a fool of yourself again." A cold shout suddenly came, like a clap of thunder, startling the ruins. The gray-robed youth was angry. He was not a native disciple of the sword sect. His surname was Fan, and his name was Jian. According to his parents, on the day he was born, his sword Qi soared into the sky and split gods and demons. Hence, his name was Fanjian. So it's the loser. Seeing the young expert step into the ruins, Fan Jian sneered and said, "Why? You were a coward at home a while ago. Now you're willing to come out?" The person who came was exceptionally powerful. He was like the blazing sun of the immortal Tao. Xian Hongshun. The surroundings were in an uproar. Xian Hongshun, one of the Xian people's 10 prodigies and the last disciple of the ancestor, was even a virtual immortal. Xian Hongshun was the representative of the Xian people. His soul qi was exuberant and blended with his body, causing his aura to be powerful and flourish. He was like a blazing sun of the immortal Tao. Fan Jian. Xian Hongshun's expression was cold. He shouted, "I don't major in sword Tao. My defeat in the past did not count as my loss. But why did I hear that after returning to the Xian people, you tried your best to comprehend the mysteries of the immortal slaying sword?" Fan Jian mocked. "I also heard that you were severely injured many times, but you didn't get anything. The Xian people's Tenningjia are really useless. You can't even comprehend the most precious treasure of your race, the immortal slaying sword. Am I wrong to say that you're wasting a treasure?" "Bastard," Xian Hongshun said angrily. "How dare you belittle the Xian people's Tenningjia just because you've comprehended the essence of the sky, he gem and sword? Moreover, the Xian people don't only have the Tenningjia. Although the sword sect has prodigies on the monarch ranking in every generation, have you ever suppressed the young experts of the Xian people? You did in the past, but you do now." The best sword in the world said proudly, "If you're not convinced, come and fight me. I'll give you a 3-move handicap, and you'll admit defeat. Don't worry, someone will come and take care of you." Xian Hongshun said coldly, "The Xian people have the 10 heroes. Apart from the sword sect, how many other capable ones do you have?" 10 heroes? Fan Jian said seriously, "I just heard that Xian Tianhe of the 10 heroes knelt in the ruins of the Celestial Court for an entire day, and then he was killed. How pitiful. It seems that one of the 10 heroes has already died, including Xian Tianhe. There are now 2 of them." "What?" The experts who came to the ruins of the Celestial Court from a distant world were shocked. Xian Tianhe was dead? He was even kneeling in the ruins of the Celestial Court? What kind of joke was this? "This bastard, I really want to skin him alive. Bastard, this bastard. I really want to kill him. Damn it, I'm so pissed off." The people of the Xianxing Mountain were so angry that their lungs were about to explode. This news had to be kept under wraps, but Fan Jian was really a bastard. He was like a loudspeaker, announcing it to the entire world, as if he wanted everyone to not know. This guy was doing it on purpose. This matter seemed to have grown wings and flew out, causing a huge commotion. Who did it? This is too crazy. Xian Tianhe was suppressed and forced to kneel in the ruins of the Celestial Court. This is an insult to the Xian people. The Xian people have always regarded the ruins of the Celestial Court as a symbol of glory. But Xian Tianhe, one of the 10 heroes, knelt in the ruins for an entire day. Isn't this too ridiculous? Don't talk about it. The Xian people are probably going crazy. I heard that the Xian people have sent many big shots to the world to find the culprit. Is the 9 Cauldron continent that big? Where are they going to find it? Many shook their heads. Now that the auction was about to begin, the 9 Cauldron continent had many experts and young geniuses from the immortal sections. Even if the Xian people had the guts, they would not dare to seal off the 9 Cauldron continent. What a pity. If we had left a day later, we would have been able to find out who did it. In the 9 Cauldron city, Danzong was disappointed when he heard the news. Even the 2 elders of Danzong were shocked. Xian Tianhe was the son of Xian Changhe. Who would have the guts to do this? Most importantly, he was forced to kneel in the ruins of the Celestial Court. This was a big problem. Could it be that a successor of the Celestial Court had appeared? Lian Yan's thoughts were running wild. He suddenly remembered the girl who looked like Bamboo Moon. The undying celestial domain was huge, but only a few people dared to provoke the Xian people. Could it be an old friend? Could it be Bao Kai and the others? When they first entered the undying celestial domain, they made a big fuss by attacking the Xian people's resource secret realms. The Xian people also sent many experts to chase after them. For safety's sake, they split up and prepared to join some immortal sections. Although Bao Kai and the others were strong, only a few years had passed. Their cultivation should not have improved much. They should not be able to defeat Xian Tianhe. Could it be someone else? Su Xiaoya. She suddenly thought of Su Yin. Could there really be such a coincidence in this world? Was there really a girl who looked so similar to Bamboo Moon? Even if it was a coincidence, there were too many coincidences. She could not help but think that Su Xiaoya's Dao companion, whom she saw in the ruins, was Su Yin. Liang Yan was dazed. She felt that she was thinking too much. Although she would never admit that Su Yin was really dead, he really could not come back from the darkness back then. Su Yin had already entered the Nine Cauldron City. This place was much more majestic than Sky Bamboo City. After all, Sky Bamboo City belonged to the Sky Bamboo branch. The Nine Cauldron Continent was jointly ruled by the Xian people. The atmosphere was completely different. It's really majestic. Su Yin walked around the city. He found out that the Nine Cauldron auction would be held tomorrow. He almost missed it. At the same time, Giant Bamboo sensed the aura of the Sky Bamboo powerhouse. He was in Nine Cauldron City. It seemed that Zhu Yao was preparing to refine the Grand Essence Golden Pill. Su Yin, the Nine Cauldron Continent, was actually not one of the 10 strongest continents a long time ago. Giant Bamboo's remnant soul recovered. Its soul chi was full and strong. Although it had not recovered to its peak, an Immortal Path remnant soul was still very impressive. Not one of the 10 strongest continents. Su Yin was shocked. Could it be because of the Celestial Court? The Immortal Celestial Domain is the strongest in the 9 continents. Giant Bamboo said, the 9 great continents are ruled by the 9 strongest immortal sections. As far as I know, the one occupied by the Celestial Court is not considered top continent. But after a long time, this continent changed. It was magnificent and became the strongest continent. Some say that the Celestial Court used the heaven-opening writing brush to seize the power of the other 9 continents and create the 9 Cauldron Continent. Some say that the Celestial Court used the Xianwang Universe's supreme method to evolve the Celestial Domain and wanted to melt the entire Celestial Domain into the 9 Cauldron Continent. It's hard to say exactly what it is. The reason why it's called the 9 Cauldron Continent is mainly because of a lost supreme treasure called the 9 Cauldron. It appeared along with the formation of the 9 Cauldron Continent. Its power might not be inferior to the 10 great treasures. The day the strongest continent was formed, the 9 Cauldron appeared. Su Yin was shocked. After millions of years of nurturing, the 9 Cauldron Continent had been forged into a supreme treasure. It's because of the 9 Cauldron that people call this place the 9 Cauldron Continent. But since the Celestial Court was destroyed, the 9 Cauldron disappeared. If we can get the heaven-opening writing brush, can we find the 9 Cauldron? Giant Bamboo was looking forward to it. If the heaven-opening writing brush was left behind, then what about the 9 Cauldron? Su Yan's heart was in turmoil. He was thinking, could the incomplete cauldron be the 9 Cauldron? Seizing the fortune of the 9 great continents and evolving it into the strongest continent, accompanied by the appearance of the 9 Cauldron, took no less than millions of years. What a magnificent project this was. Su Yin was overwhelmed with emotions. He had the incomplete cauldron and saw some truth in the ruins of the Celestial Court. Could it be the lost supreme treasure, the 9 Cauldron? Chapter 1443. At night, 9 Tripod City was restless. A large number of Immortal Path experts arrived at the cross-continent teleportation formation in the city, causing the atmosphere in the city to be tense. Tomorrow was the day of the auction. Many important people came to the city. Coupled with the death of Xian Tianhe, a group of experts from the Xian people came. They were filled with murderous intent and did not look friendly. One of the 10 heroes knelt in the ruins of the Celestial Court and was killed. This matter had thoroughly enraged the entire immortal race. After all, the impact of the fall of the immortal race's 10 heroes was too great. It had touched the immortal race's reverse scale. However, they still didn't know who the culprit was. This matter had infuriated the immortal race's old ancestor. He had issued a death order to capture the culprit within a month. You're most likely still in the 9 Tripod Continent. Don't hide anymore. Meet me in private. Let's spar. No matter who wins or loses, I'll send you out of the 9 Tripod Continent. Nine Tripod City was not quiet that night. Shouts and clamors could be heard from time to time. In the latter half of the night, they even said a lot of unpleasant things, causing many old men to glare angrily. He's crazy again. Fan Jian is making a fool of himself again. Is there no one who can teach him a lesson? I really want to see the faces of those old men from the sword sect turn green. Yeah, whoever can defeat Fan Jian can become his master. If such a fierce person really comes forward, let's see if the sword sect can still show off. Some of the old experts were so angry that their eyes were wide open. The Xian people were fine, but what was the number one sword in the world doing? However, those who were familiar with him were used to it. Fan Jian was a sword maniac. Whenever he met a sword genius, he would be like a sticky candy, trying to force the opponent to fight. Su Yan attacked in the ruins of the Celestial Court that day. He even used his sword will to beat Xianxing Mountain into a fool. This caused the sword sect to send a group of experts over, and they'd especially come to clarify that this kid had nothing to do with the sword sect. It was even to the extent that the sword sect was secretly investigating this matter because they wanted to meet this genius in the sword Dao. If they could secretly bring him into the sword sect, then it would be for the best. As for Fan Jian, they couldn't control him. He could even communicate with the Hegemon sword. If he really encountered danger, he could draw out the Hegemon sword sect's Hegemon sword and attack. He could definitely cross over a dozen continents to attack a powerful enemy. In the past, there were indeed forces who wanted to eliminate Fan Jian. If he became a powerful cultivator in the future and wielded the Sky Hegemon sword, he would become a terrifying giant. Orthodoxies who did not have a good relationship with the sword sect would be extremely wary of him. In the end, one day, the Sky Hegemon sword was unsheathed. It traversed more than a dozen continents and shocked the world with a single battle. This also made Fan Jian so awe-inspiring that no one dared to provoke him. Fan Jian had been shouting for the entire night. His throat was almost smoking. The group of old monsters from the sword sect carefully sensed the sword scar left behind by Su Yan. Even they couldn't decipher the secret arts contained within the sword scar. Could it be that another peerless sword cultivator was born in the undying heavenly domain? The person who attacked must have a strong background. The secret arts he used have some of the charm of the immortal execution sword. They came to a conclusion, which made Fan Jian despise them. He had seen through it long ago. Fortunately, he withdrew the sword intent in time. Otherwise, the powerful figures of the Xian people would have seen through it too. A person related to the immortal execution sword had appeared. This matter was enough to attract the attention of the Xian people. They would probably pay a huge price to search for his whereabouts. This matter must be kept strictly confidential. Fan Jian clasped his hands behind his back. He looked like a 17 or 18 years old, but at this moment, he looked like a peerless cultivator. He said, "This opponent is mine. I can't let the Xian people get ahead of me. If he reveals his power, I will definitely be able to find him." The group of old monsters from the sword sect muttered in their hearts. You speak as if you can suppress him directly. Although they did not doubt Fan Jian's sword cultivation, they had to be careful when it came to the immortal execution sword. Of course, the experts from the sword sect would not be kind enough to tell the Xian people these details. Dong dong dong. On the second day, a large bell appeared in the sky and rang. The sound wave spread throughout the entire Nine Tripod City. Without a doubt, this was the signal for the Nine Tripod auction to begin. It could also be called a super auction. It was not strange for true immortals of the great firmament to come and bid for treasures. Let's go, let's go. If we are late, there won't be a place to sit. The city was bustling with voices. Large groups of cultivators rushed to the auction. The Nine Tripod auction covered a vast area. It was a city within a city and could integrate millions of creatures to participate in the auction. Of course, this type of auction had restrictions. The lowest cultivation realm was the immortal realm. The threshold could be said to be extremely shocking. Even the most powerful cultivators of the human Tao were not qualified to participate in the auction. Swoosh! Su Yan stepped into the energy light screen at the entrance of the auction. He released himself on his own and was directly led to an extremely high-class private room. Su Yin was a virtual immortal. He did not hide his cultivation, so his treatment was better than that of a true immortal. He was on par with a peak true immortal. Su Yin was amazed. This private room was extraordinary. The space was huge, and the energy was abundant. It was like a grotto heaven world. The decorations were extremely luxurious and grand. Before long, two tall women walked over. They had sweet smiles on their faces. Their purple hair was sparkling and translucent, falling down to their waists. They swayed their slender waists and walked with long, snow-white legs. They were extremely sexy and enchanting. They carried some wine and approached Su Yin. They exhaled fragrances from their mouths and cast flirtatious glances at him. Vixens. Su Yin was surprised. These two vixens had snow-white tails wagging behind them. No wonder they looked so charming. The two vixens were very bold. They came up and wanted to serve Su Yin. One of them even asked if he wanted to bathe and change his clothes. How extravagant! Su Yin was greatly astonished. However, they also clearly stated the price. Su Yin casually took out some money and dismissed them. The two beauties of the fox race were somewhat unwilling, but they still retreated. To them, virtual immortals were the supreme ingjia of immortal orthodoxies. If they could serve them well, they would be rewarded handsomely. An immortal Dao lightning hammer. The starting bid is 2,000 Jin of immortal Dao stones. At this time, the auction had already begun. On the auction stage, a huge purple hammer surrounded by immortal Dao lightning appeared. It was filled with powerful destructive power. Immortal Dao treasures were precious to begin with. After all, this was an immortal Dao realm cultivator's lifetime treasure. It was extremely valuable. Ordinary people could not afford it all. However, there were many people who bid. Soon, the price soared to 3,900 Jin. Only then was it sold. Su Yan's eyes widened. He had more than 7,800 Jin of immortal Dao stones on him. This was after he had sold all the precious materials he had on him. Of course, there were still some precious materials that Su Yin could not bear to sell. In terms of wealth, Su Yin had quite a bit. 7-colored yuan immortal elixir was a priceless item. Even if he took out 100 drops, it could be sold for a sky-high price. However, this thing was too hot. Su Yin did not dare to rashly take it out to exchange for immortal Dao stones. A 50,000-year-old immortal medicine. It has already nurtured most of the immortal Dao essence. It can be considered a pseudo-immortal medicine. A stock of precious medicine that was entirely fiery red was brought out. Its price was also extremely expensive, and this thing could practically accelerate the maturation of a human Dao peak battle physique. The price was 1,900 Jin of immortal Dao stones. The auction was in full swing. It looked like it was only 2,000 Jin of immortal Dao stones. However, there were too few cultivators who could bid for it. Actually, only immortal Dao realm cultivators were qualified to bid for this kind of auction. Su Yin waited patiently, hoping to find some special treasures. A top-tier immortal Dao secret art. It's an offensive type. The starting bid is 2,000 Jin of immortal Dao stones. A defensive type immortal Dao treasure, color glass bell. The starting bid is 2,000 Jin of immortal Dao stones. Thousands of treasures were brought out for auction. The auction became more and more heated. Noisy. Oh! Su Yan's eyes lit up. He saw a small secret palace. It hovered in the void, emitting dense space-time ripples. Moreover, the space-time secret palace automatically absorbed the energy of heaven and earth, maintaining the palace's energy state at its peak. A high-grade space-time secret palace. It's 100 miles wide. It's protected by immortal Dao order. The starting bid is 2,000 Jin of immortal Dao stones. Su Yin did not hesitate. He joined the bidding. He spent close to 2,000 Jin of immortal Dao stones to bid for this thing. This made Bamboo Moon feel extremely pained. She grumbled, "It's just a place to stay. You still need a lot of immortal Dao stones for your cultivation. You'll even need more for your future breakthroughs." Su Yin transmitted his voice to Bamboo Moon. Bamboo Moon's face flushed red. She glared fiercely at Su Yin. Su Yin grinned. Before long, the space-time secret palace delivered the money that Su Yin had paid. Let's go in and take a look. Su Yin pulled Bamboo Moon into the space-time secret palace. It was obviously a female expert's cave. There were many flowers and plants planted inside. There were even palaces and residences. What do you think? I think it's very good. Su Yin was very satisfied. At least they would not be homeless. This can be considered as our first home, Qin Feng said with a smile. Bamboo Moon was wearing a long white dress. Her snow-white skin set off her excellent temperament. Now, she looked graceful and noble. A beautiful smile bloomed on her face. The space-time secret palace was indeed a space-time secret palace. People could live here for thousands of years. As long as the space-time secret palace did not collapse, it was equivalent to a Chinquan world. Seeing Bamboo Moon busying herself in the space-time secret palace and tidying up the house, Su Yin was satisfied. When I'm free, I'll use the heaven-opening writing brush to modify the Chinquan world inside. It'll definitely be more perfect. Su Yin calmed his mind and focused on the auction that was progressing. Boom! At this moment, a muffled sound exploded on the auction stage. Su Yin's mind trembled as he stared at a huge cauldron. The bronze cauldron had 3 legs and 2 handles. It was as heavy as an abyss, as if it was carrying the universe. It shone on its own. Its aura was relatively ancient. 9 layers of immortal radiance bloomed in succession, as if 9 heavens were constructed, forming a blurry map of rivers and mountains. It was enough to suppress the universe. Even someone as powerful as Su Yin was shocked. This treasure was extremely powerful. It was probably not inferior to the immortal slaying sword replica. A treasured cauldron, a peak immortal Tao treasure. The auctioneer smiled and said, "Its age cannot be measured." Everyone was in a heated discussion. A peak perfected immortal treasure was extremely expensive. It easily cost tens of thousands of kilograms of immortal Tao stones. As the cauldron shone, 9 layers of immortal Tao light screens rose. They layered on top of each other, and the aura that filled the air became much stronger. Many perfected immortals were shocked. The value of this treasure was not just this. Vaguely, a supreme Zenith Heaven Immortal Might was released. Generally speaking, peak immortal Tao realm treasures were truly formidable. Even immortal sect inheritances would casually bestow them to their disciples. What a powerful artifact! With 9 layers layered on top of each other, if it came, even the imperishable body might not be able to withstand it. Su Yin thought to himself. However, he was frowning. Why did he feel a familiar aura when the cauldron moved? It was like the aura of the celestial court. This is a 9-province heaven cauldron replica. At this time, Giant Bamboo was shocked. Who would be so generous as to bring out this treasure for auction? Although it is a replica, its value is extremely high. It is not something an ordinary peak immortal Tao treasure can compare to. Su Yin was shocked. He immediately looked towards the damaged cauldron. The damaged cauldron was faintly shaking. Although it wasn't great, it still caused the damaged cauldron to move. Su Yin sucked in a cold breath of air. Could this damaged cauldron really be the 9-province heaven cauldron? An unmatched artifact that could compare to the 10 greatest supreme treasures? Chapter 1444. Would the 9 cauldron auction house dare to accept the 7-colored yuan immortal liquid? Juju laughed at Su Yan's words. Don't worry. Although the 7-colored yuan immortal liquid is precious, the Sky Bamboo sect will sell it for limited resources. But don't take out too much, no more than 200 or 300 drops. Su Yan nodded. If he took out 100 drops, he would be able to compete for the replica of the 9-continent heavenly cauldron. I feel that this thing is too hot. Su Yan hesitated. There were many experts bidding now, and the price was climbing. The 9-continent heavenly cauldron is not an ordinary treasure. It's a top treasure of the peak true immortal realm. It's extremely expensive, Juju said. But since I can tell, the 9 cauldron auction house will definitely recognize it. They didn't mention its origin before, so there's something fishy going on. The Xian people's experts are searching for me in the 9 cauldron continent. Forget it. It's better to be careful. Su Yin could only grit his teeth and give up. He was really worried that it was a trap. The auction for the nine-continent Heavenly Cauldron lasted for half an hour before it ended. The price was also settled. A full 20,000 kilograms of immortal Tao stones. A top treasure of the immortal Tao. The price is ridiculous. Su Yan gasped. If it was a grand Heavenly Cauldron, it would be worth an astronomical price. What are the odd sky sex people doing? Find out who bid for it. In the top private room of the Xian people, Xian Hongshan's face darkened. The nine-continent Heavenly Cauldron was taken out by the Xian people. He believed that if the expert who bid for it in the Celestial Court ruins was really from the Celestial Court, he would definitely bid for it. But he was disappointed. The nine-continent Heavenly Cauldron was won by the Odd Sky sect. Young master, it's Chi Yuanhua from the Odd Sky sect. Soon, Xian Hongshan's follower came to report. He frowned and snorted. So it's him. When the Celestial Court was destroyed, the Odd Sky sect also got a lot of good stuff. Many hidden treasures were dug up by them. Young master, the nine continents Heavenly Cauldron is still missing. The Wondrous Heaven sect has been searching for the nine-continent Heavenly Cauldrons for years. Now that Chi Yuanhua has paid a high price for the replica, is it possible that he'll be able to find the nine-continent Heavenly Cauldrons through special means? Are you joking? Xian Hongshan's face darkened slightly as he berated. Idiot, what kind of treasure is the nine continents Heavenly Cauldron? It is the most powerful ultimate treasure that focuses on suppressing and suppressing. It is also the treasure that suppresses the luck of the Celestial Court. How can it be easily deduced? It's Chi Yuanhua, Xian Hongshan said plainly. The strange sect's methods are unfathomable. I didn't expect him to be here too. It's a small gathering at the Nine Pinnacles Mountain. Remember to invite him. The Nine Pinnacles Mountain was a famous place to discuss Tao in the Nine Pinnacles continent. Disciples of the rich and powerful would often gather here. There were also important figures from immortal sects who would discuss Tao in the Nine Pinnacles Mountain. Xian Hongshan was one of the 10 heroes of the Xian people and a false immortal expert. This time, he came to the Nine Pinnacles continent to see the prodigies of the Nine Pinnacles continent. Xian Hongshan was the initiator of this small gathering at the Nine Pinnacles Mountain. He had invited many young prodigies. It would definitely be a lively gathering. The next auction item is a scripture created by a true immortal of the Daoyuo. It can be cultivated to the true immortal of the Daoyuo realm. The starting price is 10,000 kilograms of immortal Tao stones. The items being auctioned in the auction were getting more and more valuable. The atmosphere of the Nine Pinnacles auction was also getting more and more lively. Bids were constantly being called out, and various rare treasures were being displayed on the stage. An immortal Tao realm puppet. Take it out and sell it. Su Yan was speechless. True immortals were elders in any clan. But now, the Nine Pinnacles auction was bidding for a true immortal Tao realm puppet. On the stage, an immortal Tao realm puppet appeared. It emitted a cold metallic aura and was also filled with immortal Tao light. It attracted the attention of many experts, and many people were bidding for it. Su Yan was jealous. He wanted to buy it, but the price was a little scary. Now, the price had soared to more than 40,000 kilograms of immortal Tao stones, and it was still increasing. It had already broken through 50,000 kilograms. 50,000 kilograms of immortal Tao stones was a huge amount of wealth. Other than the immortal sects, all the factions, big or small, would not be able to take it out easily. Isn't this a little ridiculous? Xian Hongshan was shocked. He said, I remember that a true immortal Tao realm puppet was also auctioned 1,000 years ago. It stopped at 40,000 kilograms. Is there something special about this puppet? This puppet might be related to the inheritance of the uncanny craftsman sect. Xianqing Mountain replied. His injuries were getting better. He said in a low voice, I don't know if this puppet is real or not. Those who bid are probably taking a gamble. What? Xian Hongshan was shocked. He shouted, Why aren't the families bidding for it? You don't know. Xianqing Mountain said calmly. I can't be sure. It's a puppet from the uncanny craftsman sect. Secondly, my family has a puppet from the uncanny craftsman sect. Also, there are ruins of the uncanny craftsman sect in the 10,000 tribes battlefield. If you want to explore it, you must have a puppet from their family as a pass. Everyone knew that the uncanny craftsman sect was the best forging technique in the world. But forging techniques had been lost for a long time. No one had mastered the complete forging technique. Although some forging techniques had been passed down, they were all very low level and not worth much. If one could obtain a high-level puppet from the uncanny craftsman sect, it would be amazing. It would affect the fate of the family. The ruins of the uncanny craftsman sect were in the 10,000 tribes battlefield. Some orthodoxies had explored it before, but they did not gain much. After 1,000,000 years, the 10,000 tribes battlefield was about to open again. Some ancient clans had already started to plan for the treasures of the 10,000 tribes battlefield. The uncanny craftsman sect was definitely one of the most popular treasures. The Xian people were also planning for it. An immortal Dao realm puppet must have powerful combat strength. I wonder when my puppet will be able to recover to the immortal Dao realm. Su Yin was full of anticipation. After all, even the prehistoric Big Brother said that his puppet was a battle puppet that was hard to find in the world. Unfortunately, the puppet was too badly damaged. Now, it was no longer useful to Su Yin. This immortal Dao realm puppet's price was a bit ridiculous. It was almost 60,000 jin of immortal Dao stones. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Although it was hard to confirm whether it was the uncanny craftsman sect, they had already spent such a high price to bid for it. They were really rich and overbearing. Elemental immortal grass. The scene was in an uproar. Many geniuses' eyes turned red as they stared at the elemental immortal grass with longing eyes. A stalk of golden grass, hazy with immortal mist, swayed gently. The life energy it contained was exuberant beyond compare. It was like a great tonic appearing before everyone's eyes. Crazy, this is really crazy. Su Yin was speechless. The elemental immortal grass had just been thrown out, and the price had already skyrocketed. Although Su Yin could see that the elemental immortal grass was extraordinary, there was no need for it to be so ridiculous. It had already soared to 30,000 jin of immortal Dao stones. Su Yin, although the elemental immortal grass is not a celestial medicine, it contains extremely exuberant life essence. It can nourish one's life essence. It is a miraculous medicine. Giant Bamboo said, "The elemental immortal grass is a type of supplementary medicine for refining the essence of life evolution elixir. This thing's value is also very hard to say. Sometimes it can be bought for tens of thousands of jin, sometimes for 100,000 jin of immortal Dao stones." Su Yin sucked in a cold breath. His eyes were wide open. He felt that this was inconceivable. This also showed how much importance the various tribes attached to the essence of life evolution elixir. The price of the elemental immortal grass had already skyrocketed. Very soon, Su Yin heard a familiar voice. Zhu Yao has made her move. Could the elemental immortal grass be the medicine to refine the greater essence golden pill? Su Yan's expression turned cold. Zhu Yao had shouted out a sky-high price of 50,000 jin. Of course, there were also people who followed closely behind. This belongs to me. No one can take it away from me. In Zhu Yao's private room, her eyes were a little red. She kept raising the price. Even if she had to give up everything, she would not hesitate. Many people had already given up. This was because the price had soared to 80,000 jin. Moreover, the 10,000 tribe battlefield was about to open. All the major immortal sects had already finished refining the essence of life evolution elixir. There was no need to pay such a high price to fight over it. I finally got it. Zhu Yao was ecstatic. She had spent 87,000 jin and successfully obtained the elemental immortal grass. Of course, without the financial support of Zhu Lihui and the elders behind her, it would be a fool's dream to obtain the elemental immortal grass. 80,000 jin of immortal Dao stones was enough to shock even a pinnacle true immortal. Only Zenith heavenly elites had the right to hold such a huge amount of wealth. We finally gathered it. The two elders from Danzong have been preparing for many days. We've finally obtained the missing elemental immortal grass. It won't be long before we can refine the greater essence golden pill. The two elders beside Zhu Yao were grinning from ear to ear. Once Zhu Yao merged with the sky bamboo dharma seed, her future would be limitless. She might even be able to replace Zhu Yanghua. Su Yan, what's wrong with you? Zhu was shocked. He noticed that Su Yan's body was trembling slightly. He was trying his best to control himself, clenching his fists tightly. However, Su Yan's arm was somewhat out of control. The blazing temperature was about to melt his bones. Damn it! Su Yan gritted his teeth and frantically suppressed the dragon totem. He could barely hold on. The dragon totem seemed to be undergoing some special transformation. Even Su Yan's arm was suffering. What kind of treasure is this? Su Yan swore that he had never seen the dragon totem so crazy before. In the past, when the dragon totem discovered some treasures, it would automatically glow and flash with heat. However, the heat emitted by the dragon totem this time almost burned Su Yan's arm. He was now a pseudo-immortal. What was it that made the dragon totem unable to control him? Blood dragon stone. In the middle of the auction, there was a fist-sized, blood-colored stone. On the stone, there were lines. Each line was like a condensed blood dragon. On the stone, there were hundreds of small blood-colored dragons swimming around. This was an extremely rare blood dragon stone. It was very expensive. In the hands of a refiner, it could be directly forged into an immortal Tao treasure that contained the power of a true dragon. 8,000 Jin. Su Yan called out without any hesitation. Could it be that he had really picked up a supreme treasure? Or could it be that this thing was extremely useful to the dragon totem? However, no matter what it was, no matter how precious it was, Su Yan had to go all out. The dragon totem had followed Su Yan ever since he stepped into the cultivation world. Not only was it Su Yan's trump card, but it also had an important connection with a blood-colored coffin. The price rose steadily. When it was about to soar to 10,000 Jin, there were very few people who called out a price. 11,000 Jin. Su Yan once again called out a price, suppressing the thoughts of others. When the auctioneer hit the gavel, Su Yan was like a deflated balloon. He let out a breath of relief. Even the dragon totem began to emit heat on its own. Su Yan cursed inwardly. This thing couldn't really have intelligence, right? However, now that he had obtained it, he also wanted to see what was so special about this blood dragon stone. Chapter 1445. Before long, there was a knock on the door. Su Yan thought that the blood dragon stone had arrived. However, when he opened the door, he saw a familiar old man. Su Yan was confused. Wasn't this Xianqing Mountain? He did not expect his injuries to be better. He scolded Fan Jian for being a busybody. If not, his injuries would be a headache. Xianqing Shan didn't say anything. Xianhong Shun, who had followed him, walked over and cupped his hands. I am Xianhong Shun from the Immortals. So it's Xianhong Shun, one of the 10 talents of the Xian people. Su Yan walked over and said, Esteemed guests have arrived. Apologies for not going out to welcome you. Brother, please come in. He was confused. What was the Xian people doing here? You're welcome. I'll leave after saying a few words. I don't want to disturb you. Xianhong Shun was very proud. He did not expect this young virtual immortal to know his name. He was impressed by the grandeur of the Xian people. In a few days, there will be a gathering for us youngsters. There will be many people from the same path. Even the brightest pearls will come. If you have time, you must come. Xianhong Shun knew that only one youngster could sit in such a room. He must be a young virtual immortal. He was worth befriending. Haha, since Xianhong Shun has asked, I'll definitely come. Su Yan replied without hesitation. This made Xianhong Shun very happy, and he also laughed heartily as he handed over the invitation. I'll take my leave first. See you at 9 Pinnacles Mountain. Xianhong Shun had just left when Zhu laughed. I forgot something. 9 Pinnacles Mountain is the place where the 9 continents' heaven cauldrons were created. The place where the 9 Pinnacles Mountain was created. Su Yan was shocked. He did not expect the 9 Pinnacles Mountain to be so powerful. This meant that he could not miss the appointment. Soon, the blood dragon pattern stones were delivered. Su Yan traded them with several pieces of precious immortal stones. These were all obtained from Zhu Yao and Xian Tianhe, and they were extremely valuable. After some time, the auction house finally agreed to complete the transaction. I become a pauper again. I hope that the blood dragon mark stone is some sort of rare treasure. Su Yin laughed bitterly. Right now, he was only left with a pitiful 100 or so immortal Dao stones. He had a headache. In the future, he would need a large number of immortal Dao stones to break through to the immortal Dao realm. He had to accumulate them in advance, in case he really needed them. Immediately, a golden invitation card appeared in Su Yan's hand. He smiled and said, "The Xian people's hollow immortals should go and see how strong they are." He had killed Xian Tianhe. So what if he killed 10 immortal Hongda? The Xian people were full of talents, and there were still other geniuses who stepped forward and became one of the new 10 heroes. Only the death of a false immortal would be a heavy loss to the immortal sex. Even among the powerful Xian people, there are only a handful of false immortals. I can't participate in the auction anymore. The mark I left behind has disappeared from 9 Tripod City. It's already 100,000 miles away from me. They must have activated a teleportation formation. They're already 300,000 miles away from me. However, this speed is not from a super formation that can cross continents. It seems like they're preparing to refine the golden essence pill in 9 Tripod Continent. Giant Bamboo's voice rang out continuously, and his aura was bone-chilling. Once Bamboo Moon refined the golden essence pill, it would be time for her to obtain the Sky Bamboo Dharma Seed. She could not let her succeed. Su Yin quickly left the city and started tracking the direction where Giant Bamboo's senses had disappeared. "Senior, if Bamboo Moon fuses with the Dharma Seed again, will she lose any strength?" Su Yin asked. Hearing this, Giant Bamboo fell silent. After a long time, he said, "Su Yin, with your current strength, there should be some hope for you to escort Bamboo Moon to the place where the ancestor fell. Senior, please speak your mind. If there's really an opportunity that can help Bamboo Moon, I'll fight for it with all my might," Su Yin said. Actually, with Bamboo Moon's talent, she can definitely go far in the future. Giant Bamboo was full of anticipation. However, if she enters the place where the ancestor fell and obtains some opportunities, her future achievements will be limitless. The Sky Bamboo Dharma Seed that Bamboo Moon obtained was guided by me. Giant Bamboo sighed. However, I'm too far away from the ancestor's level. Back then, I couldn't give Bamboo Moon the best cultivation environment. Although the Dharma Seed she cultivated is powerful, it's still lacking compared to the disciples that the ancestor nurtured in the past. Senior, I understand what you mean. I'll do my best to escort Bamboo Moon to the place where the ancestor fell. Su Yan's eyes shone with the flames of war. After all, the 10,000 tribe battlefield was a stage for young experts to fight for supremacy. He wasn't afraid of the experts in the world. All right, Giant Bamboo was excited. It believed that with the ancestor's ability, he must have left something behind. Otherwise, why would the ancestor's aura be emitted? In short, if Bamboo Moon could obtain some opportunities, she would definitely become a famous expert in the undying heavenly domain in the future. Thinking back to those years, the ancestors' direct disciples were all experts. There were even Daluo golden immortals. Unfortunately, after the ancestor fell, those people were no longer around. Was he dead? Or did something happen? They could only wait for Bamboo Moon to be strong enough to find out everything. Su Yin left 9 Tripod City and crossed the void to chase after Zhu Yao. 2 days had passed, but Giant Bamboo still hadn't caught the imprint he left behind. However, they weren't in a hurry. The Deyuan golden pill couldn't be refined in a few days. There was still plenty of time. I sensed it. Finally, on the 3rd day, Giant Bamboo said, "Head east about 300,000 miles." Su Yin was glad that Giant Bamboo had left an imprint in the body of the Sky Bamboo Almighty. Otherwise, it would be difficult to track them down. Soon, Su Yin was near a city. A scorching aura hit him in the face. Fire Dragon City. Su Yin was surprised. The entire city was red like a sea of fire. It was surrounded by blazing heat, burning the starry sky red. This is underground. I'm afraid there's a large fire elemental dragon vein here. No wonder Zhu Yao chose to refine pills here. This city wasn't very prosperous. It was a small city at the border of the 9 Tripod Continent. The cultivation in the city was also limited. Most of the people here were alchemists and cultivators who cultivated fire elemental techniques. Under Giant Bamboo's guidance, Su Yin arrived at his destination. It was a heavily guarded mansion. There were many guards patrolling the entrance. The entire mansion was covered by a large array formation, making it impossible to see what was inside. This should be a stronghold of the sky bamboo lineage in the 9-tripod continent. Su Yan's eyes emitted a divine light. With the heaven-opening writing brush's ability, Su Yan's heavens, I pierced through the layers of array formations and seals. Soon he saw the scene inside. The first thing he saw was a huge cauldron. The opening of the cauldron was sealed, and a raging divine fire burned inside. 2 Danzong elders sat cross-legged beside the cauldron. Their eyes were closed as they focused on refining pills. Suddenly, one of the elders opened his eyes. His eyes shone brightly as he looked around in confusion. He realized that someone was spying on them. His essence soul is most likely not simple. He almost discovered me. Su Yin was alarmed and hurriedly retracted his gaze. After all, he was an alchemy expert at the peak of the perfected immortal realm. His essence soul was exceptionally powerful. He would definitely be discovered if he spied on him for a long time. Strange. The white-robed elder frowned slightly. What's wrong? Dan Xiefeng opened his eyes and looked at Dan Tianyuan in confusion. This person had an extremely high status in Danzong. Although he was not a perfected immortal, Dan Tianyuan's attainment in the essence soul was comparable to that of a perfected immortal. Most importantly, he was one of the few alchemy grandmasters in Danzong who could refine grade 9 pills. Dan Tianyuan's expression darkened. He continued, "Don't you find it strange? Zhu Lihui asked me to refine pills in the 9-tripod continent's Fire Dragon City instead of their tribe. I guess he's giving special treatment to his disciple." Dan Xiefeng laughed. "No, Zhu Yao is not his disciple," Dan Xiefeng said calmly. "The herbs needed to refine grade 9 pills are not simple. Zhu Lihui must have paid a hefty price." "Why do you care about these things?" Dan Xiefeng smiled. "By the way, what Zhu Lihui gave you, can it really help you reach the perfected immortal realm?" Dan Tianyuan had been stuck at the peak of the perfected immortal realm for tens of thousands of years. He had been preparing for this day for a long time. It should be possible. A long-lost smile appeared on Dan Tianyuan's old face. As his old friend, Dan Xiefeng also smiled. A perfected immortal of the great all-embracing immortal. It seemed that a perfected immortal of the great all-embracing immortal would be born in Danzong in the future. This was a big event that was worth celebrating. After all, what was Dan Tianyuan's identity? He was a grade 9 alchemist, and his identity and status were not inferior to the patriarch of Danzong. If his strength could reach this level, it would be amazing. "Old man, I didn't expect that your disciple Liang Yan is from the Xianwang universe. What do you think? Aren't you afraid of getting into big trouble? Although our Danzong is strong, compared with the Xian people, there's still a big gap. If the Xian people know that your disciple is a genius from the Xianwang universe, it won't be a good thing." Dan Xiefeng smiled bitterly. His words made Dan Tianyuan say coldly, "What's wrong with the people from the Xianwang universe? Yan has outstanding talent, and it's only a matter of time before she becomes a grade 9 alchemist. No matter how long the Xian people's hands are, can they reach into my Danzong? I think you already know her identity. That's why you are so calm." Dan Xiefeng smiled bitterly and said, "This matter is too sensitive. When you finish refining the elixir, tell Zhu Yao to shut up. I believe that with your grade 9 alchemist title, you can still suppress Zhu Yao." Dan Xiefeng's eyes were a little cold. Zhu Yao's follower, Zichengjiu, recognized Liang Yan's origin at a glance. This meant that Zichengjiu was also from the Xianwang universe. Su Yin rented a cultivation room near the alchemy mansion. This guy is restless again. He can't stop for a day. Su Yin was in a hurry. In the cultivation room, he began to set up layers of domain seals. In the past few days, the dragon totem had been causing trouble many times. It was obvious that it wanted to absorb the energy of the blood dragon vein stone. Su Yin was really curious. What exactly was this blood dragon vein stone? We took out the blood dragon vein stone. The dragon totem really could not hold back and drilled out of his arm on its own. Suyin was dumbfounded. The dragon totem flew out of his arm on its own. The totem was shining with a golden brilliance, spewing out divine light. It was dazzling. Bam! The dragon totem sprinkled down a divine light, obliterating the blood-colored dragon patterns. This blood-colored dragon pattern is some kind of seal. It's not a blood dragon vein stone at all. It's more like a small stone jar. Suyin was shocked. Even someone as powerful as him could not see that this was a seal. No wonder the appraisers at the auction were wrong. Soon, the seal disappeared, and drops of golden liquid flowed out of the small stone jar. Each drop of golden liquid turned into a supreme god. It was as if the great emperor who had once dominated the reincarnation of heaven and earth had come back to life, looking down on the past, present, and future. It was terrifying beyond compare. Mother asterisk her, this is Emperor Blood. Suyin was completely petrified. This time, he had really picked up a great bargain. There were even hundreds of drops of Emperor Blood in the blood dragon vein stone. What kind of concept was this? It was a supreme opportunity that could make the immortal sex go to war. Every drop of Emperor Blood was a priceless treasure, a fortune that could only be found by chance. But there were hundreds of drops here. My divine eyes are blinded, Suyin screamed. No wonder the dragon totem emitted such a strong temperature. How many treasures in this world could be compared to Emperor Blood? Damn it, leave some for me. Suyin screamed like a pig being slaughtered. The dragon totem directly swallowed all the drops of Emperor Blood. Give me a drop, even half a drop is fine. As a human, no. As a dragon, you can't be so dishonest. Suyin was furious. He had to fight for some. He could not get the life essence evolution fluid, but he could get the Emperor Blood essence. Would it be inferior to the life essence evolution fluid? He believed that every drop of Emperor Blood was a priceless treasure. It was enough to stimulate Su Yan's physical essence and strengthen it crazily. Chapter 1446. The small blood-colored stone jar gushed with an ancient radiance. It contained over 100 drops of Emperor's blood. It was hard to imagine what kind of artifact it was. Drop after drop of Emperor's blood essence floated out of the small blood-colored stone jar, illuminating the world and space-time in a dazzling manner. There was also an ancient aura rising, as if it had been sealed for billions of years. However, it still emitted an incomparable emperor's might that suppressed the entire space-time. Su Yan's soul throbbed, and he found it difficult to move. This was an extremely grand aura that pressed down, covering the sky and covering the earth. It was as if it flowed over from another time and space, but it suppressed everything, including Su Yan. He was shocked. Just how powerful was the Emperor's blood essence? However, the dragon totem was very domineering. It flew out of Su Yan's arm and directly swallowed the 100 drops of Emperor's blood. The Emperor's might that flowed between heaven and earth was suddenly completely suppressed. The vast source of life was also completely swallowed by the dragon totem. Su Yan subconsciously wondered if the dragon totem was an emperor. However, immediately after, the golden totem trembled violently. The 100 drops of Emperor's blood essence, like 100 Emperor stars, began to spin violently in the totem world. Boom! In an instant, the Emperor's blood essence went berserk. It was exceptionally terrifying. Even the powerful dragon totem was distorting. It was about to explode. After all, he had absorbed too much Emperor's blood. It was difficult for him to withstand it. Big brother totem, give me some. Not much, just 3 drops. Look, you can't finish eating so much. You can't digest it. Su Yan was extremely anxious as he begged bitterly. This was a rare opportunity. Even the overlords of the immortal sex would find it difficult to obtain such treatment. All of a sudden, the violently trembling dragon totem exploded. Su Yan was completely petrified. He didn't know what to say. Then, he became anxious. Did he really explode? Roar! Suddenly, a terrifying aura filled the air from the exploding totem. The eternal and indestructible supreme heavenly might of the demonic Tao erupted. The moment a golden true dragon drilled out, the entire cultivation chamber turned into a huge black hole. Even the heaven-opening brush trembled slightly. It was extremely difficult to restrain a true dragon in this space-time. Everything had to crawl and tremble in front of its divine might. Su Yin was in unbearable pain. He felt like he was going to be crushed in a meat paste. Between heaven and earth, the dragon's roars resounded. The sound of its breath was like thunder from the 9 heavens, exploding into people's souls. Although a dragon was only as big as an adult's arm, however, the aura was extremely terrifying and barbaric, crushing space until it exploded, the cultivation's secret room destroyed in an instant. Fortunately, the heaven-opening writing brush guarded space-time. Otherwise, Fire Dragon City would have been destroyed. This is a dragon. Su Yin stared at a dragon that soared across the sky. Its entire body was covered in golden scales and flowed with the inviolable heavenly might of a true dragon, oppressing one's soul. If not for the fact that Su Yan's soul was strong enough, it would be extremely difficult for him to have a right to look at it. After all, this was not an ordinary dragon. It was a true dragon that could even shake the extreme Tao immortal metal. In fact, its strength should not be limited to just this little bit. You can't eat that much. Give me some. Su Yin angrily cried out. He saw the true dragon's cheeks bulging as it tried its best to suppress the Emperor's blood essence. It clearly couldn't swallow that much. In the end, a small amount of Emperor's blood essence seeped out from the gaps of its dragon mouth and drifted into the void. Every trace of Emperor's blood essence possessed absolutely flourishing vitality and life force. The pressure caused the void to explode, emitting incomparable power. My, Su Yin cried out savagely, although it flew out from its dragon mouth, making Su Yin rather uncomfortable to eat. He still fiercely swallowed it, not letting a single bit leak out. Surging Emperor's blood essence ran through his body. In an instant, Su Yan's flesh shell rumbled as if it had been struck by lightning. He was truly shocked. Just how powerful was the true dragon? It had swallowed over 100 drops of Emperor's blood. However, he had only absorbed a little, and Su Yin was already somewhat unable to control it. His body showed signs of disintegration. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Even if he was given a drop, Su Yin couldn't refine the Emperor's blood either. There was a majestic life within it, and it wasn't something he could absorb. Beginning Sutra, rebuild the universe. Rebuild the universe. Su Yin roared out loud. His body began to shine with a brilliant light. The sound of Sutra chanting rumbled through the air, shaking the heavens and earth. Su Yin's aura also changed. It was like a golden universe was being born, exuding the unsurpassed mysteries of the beginning of all life. It was like a universe was being reconstructed and the life of the universe was evolving. During this process, the secret evolution technique of the mysterious yellow universe began to bloom within Su Yan's body. This was a nearly unsurpassed path of evolution. Beneath the nourishment of the Emperor's blood essence that seized the good fortune of the world, Su Yan's body began to flourish and swell. But this sort of swell caused Su Yin an unbearable pain. He roared out loud. He really wanted to refine the Emperor's blood essence. He felt that the Emperor's blood essence could unlock the strongest treasure of the human body, allowing Su Yin to complete a transcendental evolution. Perhaps the indestructible body would directly step into the small success realm. At that time, his combat strength would skyrocket, and he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the 10,000 tribes battlefield. But soon, Su Yin discovered that the life aura of the Emperor's blood essence was too majestic and grand. It was like the vast and boundless imperial domain. As a result, Su Yin couldn't refine it at all. This is outrageous. Su Yin was so angry that he almost coughed out a mouthful of blood. He couldn't refine the Emperor's blood essence. If he was a true immortal, there might be hope. However, When Su Yin refined it in this state, the majestic life force of the Emperor's blood essence gave birth to a terrifying resistance. A kind of great pressure swept over, wanting to destroy the living being that had blasphemed against him. There was even a kind of suppression that originated from prehistory that came with a rumble. Puff! Su Yin coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. His flesh was mangled, and his body was about to rot. He was furious, and his eyes were red. He said angrily, "So what? In the future, I will also become a man who will become an emperor." Su Yin was flustered and exasperated. The Emperor's blood essence seemed to be disdaining Su Yin. Compared to the essence of the Emperor's blood essence, it was really too weak. The two were not on the same level at all. It was very difficult to assimilate them. At this time, a lot of Emperor's blood essence flowed out of the dragon's mouth. Su Yin ignored it and savagely swallowed it into his stomach. Can I use it to refine medicine after refining it into a pill? How could Su Yin be willing? The life force contained in the Emperor's blood essence was too majestic. If he could seize the essence and fuse it into his own life essence, when the day came when Su Yin was strong enough, it would be enough to help Su Yin complete a shocking evolution. However, the Emperor's blood essence floating in Su Yin's body wouldn't let Su Yin succeed so easily. It fused on its own. It turned into an Emperor's Dao Sun. Waves of Emperors might float out, making Su Yin's body tremble and about to collapse. Ah! Su Yin roared in pain. Blue veins bulged all over his body. He couldn't bear it anymore. Suddenly, Su Yin's trembling body suddenly bloomed with divine light. It was as if 10 layers of treasure splendor surged out from his body. The moment it covered his flesh, it turned into a gray energy substance. At first, this substance was relatively empty and calm, but when the Emperor's blood essence was poured in, the gray substance covering his body suddenly became much more terrifying. Boom! This ancient gray substance was extremely special. After being nourished by the Emperor's blood essence, his bloodline boiled and blazed. An aura surged from Su Yan's body. The aura was vast and ancient, grand and magnificent. It was as if 10 layers of the ancient universe had melted into one, turning into a gray sky. The aura rising from the sky was enough to suppress the universe and the heavens. My bloodline. Su Yin was surprised. What was going on? He found that his bloodline was strengthening, and there was a rather ancient aura that crossed the river of time and converged with Su Yan's flesh. In an instant, Su Yin felt that his whole person was different, because he felt that the strongest talent that he had lost was returning, reviving from his bloodline, and fusing with Su Yan's body. Could it be that the seed demon of the underworld suppressing my talent is dormant in my bloodline? Su Yin couldn't help but be excited. This was very likely the case. Now, under the nourishment of the Emperor's blood essence, was his lost talent about to return? However, in the dark, a big black hand strangely appeared and suddenly stretched out. It suppressed Su Yan's body and turned into a seed demon fetus, suppressing Su Yan's strongest awakened talent. The seed demon of the underworld. Su Yan's eyes widened in anger. This was the talent that the seed demon of the underworld had been suppressing. Now that his bloodline and body were fusing, he wanted to unearth his strongest talent. But in the end, the seed demon of the underworld was interfering with him. However, the Emperor's blood essence was not an ordinary substance. In addition to Su Yan's bloodline mutation, it caused the gray bloodlight to flow out with bloodline radiance. It shook the seed demon of the underworld, causing some cracks to appear. Bang! In an instant, Su Yan's lost talent returned. His body blazed with brilliance, like a heavenly fetus, his bones resonating together. His flesh and blood seemed to possess a higher level of life. His flesh and blood breathed on its own, seizing the heavens and earth. Moreover, his body smelted on its own, expelling impurities. Everything went smoothly. It was as if his innate talent had cleansed his body, making his flesh and blood pure to the extreme. If an outsider were to see this scene, they would definitely be given a fright. This was the same as having his body baptized by a great cultivator, becoming flawless and without impurities. His foundation was world-shocking, and his future cultivation path would be smooth sailing. Su Yin was like a young, immortal king, sitting cross-legged in the cultivation room. His body was blazing, his vital energy and blood were dense, and the essence of his life had undergone some sort of special transformation. This caused layer upon layer of powerful aura to leak out, and it covered the heavens and the earth as it surged towards the surroundings. His divine energy was seething like an ocean, and it was sufficient to pierce through the 9 heavens. "This is the talent I lost." Su Yin was silent. Not only had his injuries healed, but his combat strength had also increased by a level. He was at the void immortal realm. His primordial spirit and flesh had fused, forming an extraordinary combat strength. Now that his bloodline and flesh had fused, his aura was especially strong. Once it was released, it was like an immortal furnace burning, masculine and domineering. However, the seed demon of the underworld was not completely destroyed. Only a part of it had cracked, and he had only obtained a part of his talent. However, just a part of it allowed Su Yan's body to become like a heavenly fetus, strong and peerless, filled with masculine energy. This was a change that had never happened before, and it was equivalent to his foundation being strengthened. "The seed demon of the underworld," Su Yan sneered. "What's the point of talent? As long as one is strong enough, one can still become an expert." Actually, Su Yan did not care about his talent. As long as he had great perseverance and courage, he could still become the strongest in the world. However, a part of the seed demon of the underworld has collapsed. In the future, with my ability alone, I can also destroy it. Su Yin regained his calm. When he saw the dragon in the sky, his expression changed. This dragon had refined almost 100 drops of Emperor's blood essence. When the immeasurable Emperor's blood in its body was exhausted, this dragon changed. It was like a Qilin flying across the sky, like a Kuin Peng coming into being, like a vermilion bird burning the sky, like a black tortoise spreading the sea. It didn't look like a dragon, but more like a supreme being. After 9 transformations, an unimaginable pressure was born, and a supreme life, essence, evolution path also appeared. "What is this?" Su Yan's eyes widened. He saw a majestic path, which seemed to be the supreme path to the Emperor's Road. This dragon took 9 steps, as if it had reached the peak of the immortal path. It turned into a supreme, true dragon, overlooking the world with unparalleled heavenly might. When it took the 10th step, it was as if it had obtained a new life, as if it had experienced reincarnation, as if it had obtained an even more supreme strength. Su Yin was shocked. He discovered that the true dragon seemed to have left the undying heavenly domain and opened up a path. But at the end of this path, there was an inexplicably terrifying feeling. It was as if it was heading towards the immortal world, towards a supreme land. It was suppressed, it was judged, and it was crushed by the essence of life. "Ah!" A miserable cry rang out. It was clear and distinct. Su Yan's expression changed. He saw the dragon explode and die. Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival. Blue Sky wishes everyone a happy holiday.